Hello, I'm Nick Rapone, defensive backfield coach from Temple University. Today we're going to talk about individual fundamental techniques of defensive backfield play. Today we're going to be working with a couple of our players here at Temple University. To my left is Kevin Harvey, who just so happened to lead the Big East in interceptions this year with 6. And to my right is Leon Washington, who was our starting free safety. What we need to emphasize when we're doing our feet and hip work is that we want to attempt to keep our center of gravity on the same plane through each and every transition. Every one of our kids has a starting point, meaning when they get into their stands, some are lower, some are higher than other ones. But what we're attempting to stress through each and every drill, each and every transition, is that their level or center of gravity stays on the exact same plane. Number 2, what we try to emphasize is our weight is over our knees in everything we do. In any athletic event, when a baseball player is swinging a bat, when a basketball player is shooting a foul shot, his weight is over his knees. So each and every drill that we do, our weight is going to continually try to be over our knees. The third and final thing that we try to emphasize is to be task specific. We do not ask our kids to execute a skill that they're not going to have to execute in a game-like situation. First part we're going to start off with is our stance. Kevin here is going to get himself into a nice, comfortable stance. Now, main thing, we start from the bottom up. What Kevin wants to do with his feet is he wants to have the weight on the balls of his feet and there's just a little bit of air underneath his heels. That's it, just a touch. As we work our way up, his knees are going to be bent, his back is going to be at a 45-degree angle. His chin is going to be up and his eyes are going to be up. We have to continually train in every drill that we do with our eyes. His shoulders and arms are relaxed. One of the main areas when we get into backpedaling that really throws you off. They're going to be nice and relaxed the whole way through. Okay, Kevin, go ahead and get up. Now let's go down one more time, Kevin. One more time. Good stance. Good stance. Again, as I walk over here, what we want his inside foot back at all times so he's able to see into the quarterback. His head looking into the quarterback and just a good, comfortable position. Now what we emphasize to all of our kids here at Temple is get in the position where you can play football. Because if we took a paintbrush and we painted it right where Kevin's hips are, that's exactly where we want that line to stay on each and every transition. Once we've gotten ourselves into a good football position, we now need to learn how to get into a back pedal, which is probably the #1 tool a defensive back has to have. Leon is going to get himself in a good football position. He's going to be comfortable, knees are bent. Now, what Leon is going to do is, he is going to take his front foot and it is going to take the first step back. As he takes his first step back with his front foot, go ahead, Leon. His arms are going to start to be in a comfortable position. Right now I have him going nice and slow so we can emphasize. Continue back, Leon. And his weight is over his knees at each and every time coming through. Okay, Junior, come on back up. What we do not want our defensive backs to do with their upper body is become bass drummers. And that's where you take your arms and move them in a vertical position. Leon's going to illustrate right now. Set, hit. Now with his arms going up and down, as you can see right there, that tends to make your upper body go up and down. And that's what we don't want, because then your hips are not on the same plane that you start off with. The second item that we don't want our defensive backs to do with their upper body is carry their upper body. Now Leon will show you what I mean right here. Set, hit. As you can see, his upper body is stiff. He's just carrying his arms. If you carry your arms, then you've tightened up your shoulders and you've tightened up your neck. And to be able to make transitions, your body has to be loose and ready to go. The third and probably most vital area is that we want our feet to barely get off the ground. If you raise your feet high in the air to backpedal, then it just takes that much longer to put him back down and make that transition. So right here, you're going to watch Leon take a back pedal here. His feet are going to be very, very small off the ground. Set, hit. Once we've been able to get into a back pedal, the next area that we have to move into is the most important area, and that's making transitions. A lot of different defensive backs have great vertical speed, but once they get out in the football field, and they have to be able to make transitions, going from backward to forward, going from backward to lateral, being lateral, going backwards. What we start off with, this transition we call is a back and break, where one is backpedaling and then has to make the transition forward at a 45-degree angle or just straight up. We break it down into, this drill here is called plant, pick up, roll over. And what Kevin is going to show us right here is his feet are parallel. Whenever you plant to one direction or one side, the opposite foot has to be the plant foot. So Kevin's left foot is going to be the plant foot. His right foot is the directional foot. That means that's the direction he wants his hips to move into. And then he's going to roll back over with his plant foot. So what Kevin is going to do is he's going to plant, pick up, and roll over. Okay, Kevin, let's do it. Here we go. Set, hit. Now let's take another look at it. Let me get on this side here. Kevin's going to go much slower this time. And what you're going to see is that left foot planting, the right foot picking up, and then the left foot rolling over it. Here we go, Kevin. Set, hit. That's it right there. Now let's look at it here. This time it'll be 3/4 speed. On me, Kevin. Here we go. Set, hit. Once we've taken him through the plant, pick up, roll over, the next area that we like to establish them is getting them comfortable in backpedaling at 3/4 speed and plant and braking at 3/4 speed. What this enables us to do then is see how well they are backpedaling and what are they exactly doing on their transition. Let's take a look at it. Set, hit. Let's go, Junior. Set, hit. As you can see, both young men plant on their left foot, put the right foot down, and then rolled over. The third phase of being able to incorporate a back pedal and a plant and brake, we like to call it the W drill here at Temple. Everybody across the country probably uses it, but what this gives us a chance, especially coaches, it gives you a chance to see him executing the skill about 3 or 4 different times, and it gives you rapid fire. If you have 8 or 9 guys, it's tough to go individually one at a time. So this drill right here lets us get dual repetitions. Here we go, Kevin. Are you ready? Set, hit. Let's go, Junior. What they're attempting to do here is the same thing we've been doing through back and brake and plant, pick up, roll over. As he's backpedaling, his transition is going to the right. So what he's going to do is plant his left foot, pick his right foot up, and roll over with his left foot. Set, hit. The transition we're going to work on right now is called the stem. This is needed in any zone coverage and any man-to-man coverage. A stem enables you to control horizontal leverage on a receiver. What I'm trying to say right now is if the receiver is running vertical on you and then takes an inside or outside move to try to get his body head up with your body, that's a horizontal advantage by the receiver. What we need to do, we call it stem. If the receiver stems, we stem. And what that means is that we're going to take a lateral movement with our 2 feet, and it's called step replace, step replace. Now let's take a look here as Leon is going to walk through it. He's going to be frozen right here. What Leon's going to do is backpedal. Now he's going to move to his right, step replace, and then get himself back into a backpedal. What's important when we're stemming is that Leon's shoulders stay square. If Leon's shoulders turn, then he's no longer gaining the vertical ground that he needs to gain also. By keeping his shoulders square, this is ensuring him that he's going to gain the vertical ground. By him maneuvering his feet laterally in a step replace, that's going to ensure he has the horizontal leverage. Let's take a look at it here, and let's pick it up a little bit, Leon. Set, hit. Good job. What's important when we're stemming is that Leon's shoulders stay square. If Leon's shoulders turn, then he's no longer gaining the vertical ground that he needs to gain also. By keeping his shoulders square, this is ensuring him that he's going to gain the vertical ground. By him maneuvering his feet laterally in a step replace, that's going to ensure he has the horizontal leverage. Let's take a look at it here, and let's pick it up a little bit, Leon. Set, hit. Good job. Set, hit. This transition is called a zone turn. And what Kevin is going to demonstrate for us is he's going to keep a vertical cushion while playing zone football, hence the name zone turn. Kevin is in a back pedal. When he feels his cushion is threatened, he is going to turn himself at a 90-degree angle so he's still able to control the receiver and see the quarterback. Now, important ingredients here are, as Kevin gets himself into a football stance, as he's backpedaling, 3 things have to happen for this skill to be able to happen. The first thing that's going to happen is the front foot, his front toe is going to pivot, and that's going to unlock his hips. The right foot is going to take him in the direction of his break. In this position here, Kevin is opening up to his right. So this foot has to unlock his hips. The right foot is going to take him in the direction he's going. The third and final phase are going to be his shoulders. What I like right now, Kevin, is take 2 steps back right now and get yourself into a zone turn. Set, hit, right there. Now, the third and most important phase is his shoulders. His shoulders right here. We want to keep his shoulders as parallel to the floor as possible. If he overemphasizes with his shoulders rolling into the football field, it's going to make his transition back out that much harder. So again, we want to keep those shoulders in this position right here. And what we tell him is his shoulders, the weight of the chest should be over the knees. Now let's take a look at the drill. On my command, Kevin, I'll move you on the football. Good zone turn. Set, hit. We've already talked about a zone turn. Now we have to make the transition from a zone turn to a zone turn and break. And it's almost the exact same transition one makes from a back pedal to a back and break. You have a plant foot, you have a directional foot, and then you roll back over. First thing you have to do is get yourself into a back pedal, then a zone turn. Now, Kevin's going to break on an outside route. He's going to show us a break on an outside route. And what he's going to do is he's going to plant his right foot, he's going to pick his left foot up, and he's going to roll back over with his right foot. Let's take a look at it, Kevin. Set, hit. This drill we're going to do here is called the man turn. We already talked about a zone turn where you're turning into the football so you can read the quarterback. On a man turn, you're going to turn into the man, and it's mainly played when you're playing any type of man-to-man coverage. Now, the same fundamentals exist. Your front foot has to pivot to unlock your hips. Your lead foot, which would be Leon's outside foot, is going to take him in the direction that he wants to go. The front foot's going to pivot to unlock his hips. And in this instance right here, he wants to get his shoulders completely turned around where he gets himself into a vertical running position. Let's take a look at it. We're going to take a look at it. Here we go. Set, hit. This next technique is called the bail technique. We like to play a lot of bump and run here at Temple, but occasionally we want to show a bump and run position and we want to bail out, hoping the quarterback will throw the fade route. What we ask the DB to do in the bail technique is show bump and run for as long as possible, take a step back with his outside foot, then his inside foot, then get himself into a zone turn position and bail for approximately 9 to 10 yards. Let's take a look at Kevin. Blue 16, blue 16, set, hit. This skill is called look and lean. It's essential for anybody playing any type of man coverage on the deep football. We break it down to where we break it down in 3 areas. The first area is we have them running vertically for 5 yards, and then once they get to 5 yards, they're going to look, and as they look, they're going to lean at a 45-degree angle, looking back for the football. But what's essential, the reason it's called look and lean, that most DBs, when they look for the football, their shoulders take them back into the field and the wide receivers along the sideline. So look and lean tells them if you look for the football, lean into the receiver. Make sure you know where he is. Let's take a look at the first part of it here. Set, hit. Good, good. As you can see by that right there, Leon was looking back for the football. His right arm was out trying to feel the wide receiver, and that's what we call a lean. The second area that we like to look at is from a bump and run position, where now he's going to work on bumping and running for 3 steps, then get himself into a vertical position, and then look and lean again. Set, hit. The third and final way of executing the look and lean is Leon's going to go from an off-man position into a man turn. Then once he gets downfield into that 16-yard area, he's going to look and lean. Set, hit. The baseball rule transition deals with when a defensive back has made a hard break to the post or a defensive back has made a hard break to the corner initially and the wide receiver gives him two moves. For instance, if the wide receiver goes post and then corner, we want to be able to execute the transition just like he executed his transition. So what we want to be able to do, we call it a baseball roll. That Kevin is going to roll over his upfield foot, get his outside foot in the direction he wants to break. Set, hit. As Kevin comes out of his post break, the first thing he wants to get around is his head to see where the receiver is. The receiver has two routes. He can either continue on the corner route or do a deep comeback. This next area is probably the biggest difference in football in the last 15 years, is how defensive coaches are emphasizing stripping the football. It's essential because offensive teams have become so explosive that sometimes they'll gain 10, 12, 13 yards, but a defensive player will be able to come and strip the football. We teach stripping three ways at Temple. The first way we call is a club strip. And what's going to happen is Leon is going to take his left arm and bring it over top of Kevin. This ensures the tackle. The next thing he's going to do is take his right hand and he wants to get Kevin's hand and he wants to pull the arm out so the elbow is exposed. The ball becomes available when the elbow's exposed. If we would start all over again, if Leon just comes and tries to hit the football and if Kevin's elbow's in tight, he's not getting it out of there. But by bringing his hand here and pulling it out, now it's exposed. Okay, let's take a look at the club full speed. Set, hit. The second way of stripping is when a defensive player cannot get close enough to make the tackle on the offensive player. The offensive player is running downfield and his arms are in a running motion. The defensive player is at least an arm's length behind. We tell him to go ahead and punch the football. What he wants to do is take whichever arm is closest to the ball and take it with the fist and punch right through the football. Let's take a look at it, the punch. On you, Junior. The third area is when a defensive player, mainly defensive back or linebacker, is breaking on the football and a man is catching a curl route or the offensive player has his back shielded to the defensive player. In this situation here, Leon is going to strip the football from Kevin. Kevin is catching an imaginary curl route. What Leon wants to do is take both his arms and put them up through the rib cage of Kevin. Go ahead, Leon. He's going to come up through the rib cage. As he comes up through the rib cage, we now tell him to take his arms and break Kevin's out. He's going to give an outward motion. Let's take a look at it again. Again, breaking on the football. Leon's arms are going to go through the rib cage, in the rib cage, and then out. When we talk about the age of turnovers, one area which, if you watch a lot of football, which I know you all do, is you'll see a lot of young kids do not know how to properly scoop up a fumble or recover a fumble. We have a turnover drill each and every day, and we take time to teach our young men how to recover a fumble. The first way of recovering a fumble, we say it's the open field fumble. This is where we want Leon to retrieve the football and then get as many yards as he can. And we start out teaching him in this direction right here. We tell Leon, get his knees bent, get in a good football position. Knees bent. We tell him to get his eyes riveted to the football. Now we tell him to bend his knees with his fingers together and scoop the football. Go down to the football. Now, freeze right there. As you can see, he's down to the football. His eyes are riveted to the ball, his hands around the football. What we try to emphasize is that his body stays behind the football. How many times you see somebody recovering a fumble and he's ahead of the football and he's running but he doesn't have the ball? So we tell him stay behind the football. Now, once his eyes and hands are riveted to the football, his knees are bent, we tell him the next thing to do is secure the football. Bring it up into his pocket, secure the football, get his eyes up, and get as much yardage as he can. Set, hit. The second way of recovering a fumble is recovering it in close quarters. When you recover it in close quarters, that means enemy jerseys are all around you. The most important ingredient is slide into the football, scoop the football, get it in your belly, get yourself into a fetal position, and roll that front shoulder, exposed side shoulder to the open field so that you have a little bit of protection. Set, hit. Now what he wants to do is just roll over here a little more right there. Good fetal position, ball is tucked. Good job, Kevin. Basically, the DB has to defeat two blocks in the open field. One is the stock block and one is the cut block. Now let's take a look at the stock block. What's happening in the stock block is the wide receiver here is coming downfield vertically and he wants to get his hands on the defensive back. And if he can, he just wants to hold his ground. That's all he wants to do. Wide receiver wants to hold his ground. He doesn't want the DB to advance toward the football at all. The defensive back has to advance toward the football. This reduces any type of vertical lane for the football carrier. What Kevin is going to want to do is he's going to want to get his arms inside of Leon's arms. By getting a great engagement, he can then push off and get a disengagement and find the football. Let's take a look at it. Set, hit. Now this time we're going to do it again. This time Leon is going to attempt to shoot his arms inside, make it a little more realistic. Set, hit. Again, it is always the low man always wins. As long as Kevin's arms are able to get inside of Leon's arms, he's going to have control of Leon's body. Now when he strikes, he wants to strike with an open hand and he wants to hit with the heels of the thumbs. Open hand, heels of the thumbs. Now, the second way of taking on the stock block is this time the ball carrier is very close in hand. If the ball carrier is very close in hand, what Kevin wants to do at this time is take Leon on, but then he has to stay there with some type of extension. And the coaching point is this. What Kevin has to know is he cannot go inside the blocker until the ball carrier has come inside. So what Kevin has to do is take Leon on and keep that vertical separation. What he doesn't want is any type, put your arms down, is any type of movement in here. This is what we call Velcro. Kevin now is not able to come off of Leon. What he wants to keep is this type of separation here, so now that he can either rip and get outside, or he can either rip and get inside. This next drill is called the cut drill. Because we do not have full gear, and I'm going to demonstrate this one myself. And this is probably, in high school they're not allowed to cut, but in college they do cut. And this is one of our essential drills that we do each and every day. What Leon is trying to do, Leon is trying to get to my outside leg. He's trying to cut me down. What I need to do is I need to be able to give ground and control Leon. I want to control his helmet and his shoulder pad. And what I want to be able to do by controlling his helmet and shoulder pad is be able to push him down and away. Let's take a look at it. We're going to go slow motion to begin with right here. Leon's going to shoot for the opposite leg. Go ahead, Leon. I'm going to give ground. As I give ground, my eyes are riveted to his head and this shoulder pad. What I want to do is put one hand on the helmet and one hand on the shoulder pad. My right foot is kicked back. What I want to do is push now down and away and give ground. We're going to now talk about some man-to-man coverages. The first one we're going to talk about is playing off man. What we mean by off man is our defensive back is going to line 9 yards off the man. That's 9 yards off of the man. And what he wants to do is, his most important ingredient is he wants to read the quarterback. Now, as far as his alignment, he's going to be 9 yards from the man. And what he wants to do is, as he lines up, he wants to be, if I'm the wide receiver, his outside foot wants to be about 3-4 inches inside my inside foot. So he gets that position right in there. His eyes are going to be looking at the quarterback. And we tell him he does not move until that quarterback goes beyond a 3-step drop. That's why we give him that 9-yard cushion. Now, let's talk about the quarterback for a minute. When you talk about how do you know if the quarterback is dropping 3 steps or 5 steps? Basically, we tell our DBs this. If a quarterback is going for a 5-step drop, a lot of times on film, he'll want to get out of there, and that front shoulder is going to be high. And that tips off that he wants to gain depth. They only have but so much time to throw that ball. So we tell them a lot of times on 3-step drop, watch the quarterback's shoulder as he come out. If that shoulder is low, that should be an indicator of 3-step. Now, we tell our DBs when they do run 3-step, there are probably 4 routes that they need to look at. The first route is the out route. The second route would be an inside cut, which is a slant. The third route is a hitch route, where he just comes down 3 or 4 yards and turns around. The fourth route is, we say, a plus, an out and up, a hitch and go, a slant and up. As far as what our defensive backs are looking, once they determine that it is a 3-step drop, their eyes are going to rivet themselves to the wide receiver. And we tell them we want them to break hard and always break for the upfield shoulder. If I'm a wide receiver and Kevin's a DB, and Kevin gets a great 3-step read on me, and I'm coming down and I'm running an out route, Kevin is going to take an angle for this upfield shoulder. Continue to come, Kevin. This is the angle he's going to take, so that if I would catch the football, Kevin is in a position, or attempting to catch the ball, Kevin's in a position to strip it, Kevin's in a position to make the tackle. Now let's look at it again. If Kevin gets a great break, and he's starting upfield shoulder, and he gets a great break, he can shoot the hip on me and make the interception. Now, when we talk about shooting the hip, That means when he has control of me, he feels he's in control, the ball's not here yet, he gets by my hip as quick as he can with his hips and looks for the football. If we talk about breaking on the slant route, if I'm coming down and I'm taking this direction here for the slant route, once again, Kevin is going to break for the upfield shoulder. If I continue, Kevin is going to be on line to make the interception. If he's not there quick enough, he goes for the strip. And if I do catch the football, he's right there to make the tackle. When we talk about playing the hitch route, what the hitch route is the wide receiver is going to come downfield, plant, and come back to the football. Now my back is to Kevin. What Kevin needs to understand is he's going to break full speed. If he feels he has control, he's going to shoot the hip by me. Again, get his hips by my hips. If he doesn't shoot the hips, the next thing he's going for is the strip. His arm's going to come in and then out. The third and final phase would be if I do catch the football, Kevin knows that wide receivers like to plant inside and get back outside. Kevin's going to make the hit. Now we've established that we're always breaking on the upfield shoulder, but what happens on the second break? Meaning what happens if somebody runs it out and then up? Well, what we tell our DBs are, once you break for the upfield shoulder, if he gives you a second break, collision to second break. So if I'm the wide receiver and I'm coming downfield and I run an out route and Kevin's breaking on the out, if I take another step and go up, Kevin's going to continue and collision using his hands, and then he's going to run with me. Once we've established that it's not a three-step drop, then Kevin's eyes are going to get right to the wide receiver. So what he's going to do is he gets no three-step drop read. Kevin now is going to accelerate his back pedal. As he's accelerating, he's looking at my inside hip. The second phase that the wide receiver is going to have is, if it's not three-step drop, he is going to attempt to stem us inside or outside, meaning he's going to attempt to gain some type of horizontal leverage on the defensive back. What the defensive back has to be able to do is counter him by maintaining his original leverage, which is inside, and we call this a stem move. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come off vertically and then I'm going to stem inside. Kevin's going to come off vertically and also stem inside. Set, hit, coming vertically. Now I'm stemming and Kevin stems. By stemming, we tell Kevin, step replace once, step replace twice if you have to. You shouldn't have to stem more than 2 times. Let's take a look at it again. 2 stems. Set, hit, vertical, stem, vertical, stem. The next phase is if the receiver runs a deep route. And there's 2 areas that the defensive back has to make some type of decision, whether he's in control or not in control. And let me show you what I mean by each one. If I'm the receiver and Kevin's a defensive back and I'm running a deep route, and if there's this much separation, Kevin is not in control. So the only thing Kevin wants to do as I'm running is he wants to run and catch me. We tell him, don't panic. Just believe in yourself and continue to run and catch me. Now, if he still doesn't have control and the receiver goes to catch the football, he cannot look back. He has to play with his hands and attempt to strip the football. The second phase of playing the deep ball is when Kevin is in control. By control, we're telling Kevin he is hip to hip. Now, as the wide receiver's running and Kevin's in control, he is allowed to look for the football, but as he looks for the football, he has to look and lean. This accomplishes 2 areas. One, it takes away the green that the quarterback has to throw the football in. And number two, it gets Kevin in a better position now to be the wide receiver. Now, to continue talking about man-to-man, we're going to talk about bump and run. Everybody's playing bump and run across the country, and as many people are playing them, there's so many different ways to play it. The way we like to play it at Temple is, when the wide receiver takes his stance, we tell the defensive back to straddle the upfield foot, because we tell him that foot is not moving. That foot's the stationary foot. When he straddles the upfield foot, go ahead and get yourself in a good position, Kevin. His eyes are going to be looking at the opposite hip. This foot is a direction foot. So his eyes are reading this hip. And what we're talking about as far as direction is, if this foot comes forward, then we know the wide receiver is not going anyplace. As a matter of fact, he's just running in place, because he can't go vertical, he'll run into the DB. Foot back. If this foot now goes hard outside, we now know it's a hard outside release. And that triggers to the defensive back. He now has to slide outside to his left. So, repeating it again, this is the key hip. Stationary hip, key hip. Most of the time when this wide receiver wants to go inside, he has to come straight up and balance up, run his feet together, and then get himself inside. What we're telling Kevin is, as he's lined up, that he wants to slide and hit with the opposite arm. And the reason we want to slide and hit with the opposite arm, it keeps our shoulders square, and we are truly playing bump and run. We do not want him to get off this line of scrimmage free. We want the defensive back to stay square as long as possible. That is only going to widen the wide receiver. So let's take a look at a release. Outside release, nice and easy. Set, hit. Now, as Kevin came across, what he wanted to do is keep that right arm on the pec. And he wants to keep separation. You never want to hit the wide receiver with that elbow bent, because if that elbow's bent, that means he can get into your body. We want to hit on the rise, fully extended. Once again, let's take a look at an outside release. Set, hit. Now let's take a look at an inside release. What Kevin is going to do, by Kevin reading the back hip, Kevin's going to see the right hip coming up vertically, and he's just going to stay in place. To a lot of DBs, this is a dangerous area. A lot of them will take a step back. A lot of them will run their feet. What you don't want to do is open your hips. Let's take a look at it. Set, hit. Once again, as the wide receiver went inside, Kevin was able to hit him with his opposite arm, which enables him to keep his shoulders square at all times. Let's take a look at it one more time. Keep your shoulders square and your feet. Set, hit. Good. Once we've established that he has gotten a release, we need to be able to teach him a couple helpful hints. Most of the time, whichever direction he releases, that's the type of route he is. If he runs an inside release, it's going to be an inside route most of the time. Outside release, outside route most of the time. So what Leon is going to do right here is he is going to run an inside release, and he's going to get inside Kevin at this time. And Kevin is going to counter by, once the receiver beats him inside, Kevin is going to jump his body inside and then play the route. Set, hit. Once he read it was an inside release and he was beat, he jumped inside and then ran the receiver's route. The next tool that the DB needs in bump and run is when the receiver tries to run two quick moves on him, one to the outside and one back to the inside. What we call this is a vertical dog fight. What Kevin is going to do is Leon's going to take an outside release. Kevin's going to hit him with his opposite arm, which will be his right arm. Then Leon's going to attempt to come back inside, and Kevin's going to pivot and hit him with the opposite arm. Vertical dog fight. Set, hit, right, and then left. Good, now let's take a look at this component again. When we start off again, Kevin hits him with his opposite arm. Let's get lined up. Opposite arm, and it's vertical, it's stretched, so he's controlling the receiver. The receiver's not by him. As they slide outside and he comes back inside, he's going to switch and hit him with his opposite arm again. And again, you can see it's vertical and he has complete control. These drills here are to incorporate catching the football and teaching the defensive back to go for the football. Any good defensive back has to be able to catch the football as he's coming back to the ball. Anybody can make the catch going away from the football. First drill we call it is, the first drill that we call, the name of it is coming at me. And what we want the DB to do is come vertically at me, reach out, thumbs together, make a good football catch. Set, hit. Set, hit. Now what we'll do is we'll emphasize breaking on an out route. Now they'll come down, they'll break at a 45-degree angle. Again, what we want them to do is reach out and catch the football. Most defensive backs will try to cradle the ball. We want to reach out and catch the football. The third and final drill that we'd like emphasizing catching the football is called shoot the hip. Here's where the defensive back is behind the wide receiver. He's breaking on a curl route, breaking on a hitch route. He gets a great break. What we want him to do is get his hips by the wide receiver's hips as fast as he can. Set, hit. These drills are the nuts and bolts of all defensive back transitions. We'll go from a back pedal to a back and break to a zone turn to a zone turn and break to a man turn, and we'll incorporate the football. We do these each and every day for three reasons. First of all, it gets them making transitions, it forces them to see the football, and number three, it emphasizes catching the football. Defensive backs do not get enough work on catching the football. Set, hit. This next skill is going to be the zone turn, where Kevin is going to back pedal. I'm going to raise him up, then I'm going to throw the football. He's playing deep third football. He's just going to play the football in the air. Set, hit. Set, hit. This next skill is an add-on from the zone turn. Now the wide receiver is going to run and come back out. So we call it the zone turn and break, where he's going to turn as if he is playing the deep football, and then he has to come back real hard on the out route. Zone turn and break. Set, hit. Set, hit. As we continue now, we're going to execute the baseball roll. Baseball roll is needed when the receiver has made a hard drive into the post or corner area, and then he seconds that with the, for instance, if he goes post and then post corner, or if it gives you a hard move to the corner, then comes back to the post. This is where the defensive back has to use his momentum, use his upfield foot as his plant foot, and get his head around. Let's take a look at it. Set, hit! Set, hit! The next skill that is needed is called the stem. The stem is used so the defensive back can keep his horizontal leverage on the wide receiver. Mainly used in man-to-man coverage, but some zone coverages where the wide receiver releases and takes a hard move inside and then gets himself back vertical. All he's trying to do is get himself head up on that defensive back. What the defensive back has to do to counter it is he has to make that stem move himself. And what we tell our DBs to do is keep your shoulders square and step replace with your inside foot. Let's take a look at Kevin. Set, hit. Good. Let's take a look at Leon. Set, hit. Good. What's important is that both players kept their shoulders square as they were stemming. That ensures that they're still going to have a vertical cushion. If you turn your shoulders as you're stemming, you're going to stay inside, but you're not going to gain any depth. Thus, your cushion is going to be threatened. You have to accomplish two main ingredients here. Keep a vertical cushion and keep your horizontal leverage. These next couple drills are to increase one's zone range. A lot of people are playing 2 deep and 3 deep. We like to do this drill, we call it man in the middle. I'll get myself 15 yards, place a cone 15 yards from myself. Actually, the cone is 17 yards. I give it 2 yards beyond the 15-yard mark. Kevin is going to stand over the cone, and he has to control his zone. I put a cone on each hash mark. So that means that Kevin is in the middle of his zone. If you're playing 3 deep, this is a perfect drill for you. What Kevin wants to do is read my shoulders. I'm going to look in a certain direction and throw the football. Kevin is going to break, catch the football. He's going to shoot the hip as he goes by the cone. We're trying to get the wide receiver to read the quarterback. Once the quarterback has determined where he's going to throw the football, then that DB is going to take off and control his zone. This is a total confidence builder. What we're trying to tell our defensive backs as they're reading the quarterback is we tell them, quarterback is going to take a drop. As he's taking a drop, he's gaining ground. We want to continue to gain ground. We always have to control our area. Quarterback's going to get set at some point in time. Both hands are on the football. We tell him the front shoulder is the scope. So whichever way that front shoulder is looking is truly an indicator of where that football is going to go. The second part is we tell them the front hand is the pin on the grenade. So if the scope is looking in your direction and that front hand comes off the football, 99% of the time that football is then going to be released. And those are just indicator or cue cards that we try to help our kids with as they're playing zone football. Now we're going to continue to add on with this drill. We did it, we called it man in the middle stationary, the first one. This one's man in the middle moving. Now Kevin is going to take a back pedal, read my shoulders, and make that break. Set, hit. The next area of playing zone football is we put our corners in a position where they have to defend from the sideline to the hash mark. We call it the deep corner third drill. And what Kevin is going to do is Kevin's going to be in a back pedal, then he's going to get into a zone turn, and I'm either going to throw it to the inside of the hash or to the outside of the hash. Slide in a little bit, Kev. There you go. Ready? Set, hit! Let's get another one of those, okay? Set, hit! As we continue talking about zone football, we're now going to look at our two deep zone drills. And what we're going to ask the half field safety to do is, we tell him he has to make 3 plays from the half field. He has to take away the deep fade, the quick fade, and the ball down the middle. First ball I'm going to throw right now is the deep outside fade. Set, hit! Hello, Nick Rapone, defensive backfield coach, Temple University. What we're going to talk about today is our cover 2 package. We play basically 3 variations of cover 2. The first variation that I'll talk about is what we call hard, and that's where the corners are going to get a collision and control the flat routes, and that's why we say it's hard. We want them to be physical. The second part, we tell them it's a soft, where they're going to read their way out. Again, I'm talking about the corners. They're going to read their way out. They're going to read 1 and 2. And the third way, and what we utilize, is when we man up the 5 underneath people, so the corners are going to be manned up. What I'm going to concentrate on mainly is the secondary play of the cover 2 package. Okay, let's start off in playing 2 deep, and I'm going to concentrate on the right corner and the right safety. Let's start off with the corner position. We want the corner to be 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, and we want the corner to have outside leverage. So what that means is the corner is going to have his inside foot on the outside foot of the wide receiver. So what we'd like to have the corner fit and feel comfortable with is, if the football is inside there, I'm going to put my inside foot on the outside foot of the wide receiver. Now I'm going to be in a good DB stance, and what we ask him to do on the snap of the football is drop his outside foot to parallel. And again, we ask him to drop his outside foot to parallel. This is going to maintain through the first 2 steps when he's reading the backfield to maintain his outside leverage. Corner's inside foot is to the outside foot of the wide receiver. Outside foot on the snap of the play will drop outside. This lets him have his outside leverage. Now, once he executes the step back, he's reading the backfield. If he would get the ball in what we call the 1 lane, that's option or toss, we're going to ask him to force from outside in. He has to contain the option and turn the toss back inside. So again, he's from 5 yards depth. He's reading the backfield. His read step is dropping his outside foot back. And in the run game, he contains the option or the toss. As we move to the safety, we're going to put the safety 12 yards deep. And we tell the safety his guideline are the hash marks. So what we tell our safeties is just take 2 steps off the hash mark as a general starting point. Then depending on ball and a hash or plus or minus split, you're going to adjust horizontally. To start off, we're going to now have the free safety. If the football is to my left, the free safety's inside foot is back. The only reason his inside foot is back is so he has a clearer picture to the quarterback. He's able to see that shoulder is back. He's in a good defensive backfield position. Again, he's reading the backfield to start off with. And what we ask him to do is backpedal under control at 12 yards. And he's looking to see if ball was in the one lane, option or toss. If it is option or toss, he knows the corner is going to force from outside in. The free safety backpedals, and we tell him always check number 1. So we may have a halfback pass or we may have option pass. He knows the corner's not playing pass, the corner's playing run, so the free safety has to always check number 1 for halfback pass, halfback option. If the corner does get blocked, then the safety is able to fill in what we call the alley. Technique for the corner in playing cover 2. The inside foot is back, the outside foot is up. We're reading the quarterback. On a snap of the football, the outside foot takes its drop step, we're parallel. Now, what we tell the corner is he has to play a wall, meaning this wall right behind me, we do not want the corner going beyond this wall until the wide receiver goes beyond the wall. And what we're trying to do is get a redirect. So now, this corner is parallel. He has read the quarterback. It is not run, it is a pass. So now what he's going to do is he's going to focus completely on the wide receiver. So now his eyes are looking only at the wide receiver right here, and he wants to get a read off of the wide receiver. If the wide receiver releases vertical, that's the easiest one. The corner is taut. On my collision, I want my weight over my knees. I do not want to lunge. I want the wide receiver to come to me, thumbs up. I want to get a collision in the breastplates. But I always want to have my outside arm free. So what we tell them is, have your head on the outside of the wide receiver's head. That will keep your outside arm free. Now, when we make a collision, at some point we're going to have to take a departing angle. What we tell the corner is he always wants to get 10 to 12 yards to the numbers. So what would happen here is we'd get the collision depending on where the numbers are. And let me just illustrate it right here. The corner's here, the numbers are there. He takes a vertical release, the corner gets the collision. Once he gets the collision, that corner wants to work back out to his numbers. So that corner would look like this. I'm here, parallel, I get the collision, my numbers are outside. Now if you look at my feet, I'm going to turn sideways. We tell them as if you're pulling a lawnmower. The old lawnmowers, not the push buttons, the ones where you had to pull them. You're going to pull the lawnmower and get at a 45-degree angle. And now I'm going to work back to the numbers right here. Now once I get 10 to 12 yards, we tell him you're controlling your zone. Now as you work, if the wide receiver takes a hard outside release, then the defensive back, again, inside foot back, outside foot up, parallel. If it's a hard outside release, the DB has to work outside. And we tell him with our feet, you have one of two ways to work hard, inside or outside. And that is to actually shuffle or pick your feet up and move parallel. We don't care which technique you use. But the bottom line is, getting back to this board, on the hard outside release, we cannot let him release vertical on that free safety who has one half the football field. So we have to get a redirection, and that's where our rule is, if your head is on the outside of his head, when you make the funnel or the collision, then he has to go through your entire body to get outside. But if your head is on the inside of the wide receiver, as that wide receiver is working outside, the only thing he has to do is beat one half of your body. On the outside release of the wide receiver, the corner is going to work outside, get a collision, plant, and always work back toward the numbers. If the corner gets an inside release by the wide receiver, now all we tell the corner to do on an inside release is slide 2 to 3 steps inside, because we say the wide receiver has already funneled himself inside to the half-field safety. So if we get the inside release, and I'm going to demonstrate it again, the ball's inside, I get my read, the receiver goes inside, I just want to slide 1-2 steps. And the reason you got to slide 1 or 2 steps is you got to be able to react to the quick slant, which we do not get a lot of. Once you're 1 to 2 steps, we don't want to chase, but what you got to do again is pull the lawnmower, turn sideways, and take your departing angle as we move back to the board, and get your departing angle and get yourself back to your numbers. We tell them you always got to get back to the numbers 10 to 12 yards deep. Corner now works inside, slide step, 2, 3, plant, and come back out at 45-degree angle, working to the numbers. Now, when we talk about departing angles, again, if it's a hard outside release, then that corner is going to work outside, keep your head on his outside, pull the lawnmower, and take that departing angle back to the numbers. So again, as I demonstrate, if it's a hard outside release, I got to stay outside, get the collision, pull the lawnmower, and work myself back to the numbers. So whichever release this wide receiver takes, I'm still going to take a departing angle back to the numbers. Now we tell them, once you get back to the numbers, pick your eyes back up, or put your eyes back to the quarterback. From that point there, you should be 10 to 12. Quarterback should be ready to throw the football. Talking about the safety now in the 1/2 field coverage. Again, we're going to put him at 12 yards deep. We like him to take 1 to 2 steps off the hash mark and adjust his split according to the 2 receivers to his side. But we have one bottom line rule, and that's, we tell this safety, stay in between number 1 and number 2. If you stay as deep as number 1 and number 2, and if you stay in between number 1 and number 2, then you're in pretty good shape. Now, how does he get this accomplished? What he's going to do is, to start off with, he's always going to look for run or pass. So his eyes, and this is how I draw it up for the kids, his eyes are going to be reading the backfield. On the snap of the football, he's going to backpedal under control. Now, we tell him, his rule of thumb is you go ball first, then you go find number 1, then you go back to the ball. And what's that going to do is that's going to let him know run or pass, let him see if number 1 went inside or outside, and as he goes back to the ball, he's able to pick up the quarterback, but he's able to pick up the number 2 receiver and see where the number 2 receiver went. So for instance, if it's a pass, and he goes to number 1 and number 1 releases outside, as he goes back to the ball, he picks up number 2, number 2's vertical. He knows if number 1 is vertical and if number 2 is vertical, he's going to have to gain a little bit of width and stay in between number 1 and number 2. Playing 2 deep, the free safety, 1 and 2 vertical, the free safety stays in between 1 and 2. By the same token, The exact same progression happens, and what he gets is now he gets number 2 going in the flat, and he gets number 1 going outside. Again, ball told him pass. He goes to number 1. Number 1 went outside. He goes back to the ball. He sees number 2 going outside. So his thought process is, coach always told me stay in between 1 and 2. Well, 1 and 2 are both outside. So now what he has to do is, as he's coming back, he has to really work off the hash mark and then flatten out, because he has to stay in between 1 and 2. And this is the most difficult route on a half-field safety, is 2 is going into the flat, which is going to hold the corner, and number 1 is running a takeoff route. So he's not going to get much help from the corner. That's why we always tell him stay in between 1 and 2, ball, 1, ball. Free safety position, outside release by 2, outside release by 1. Free safety can get over top of 1. I think when you also talk about this position, the free safety position, I think you can really educate him on seeing what number 1 does, but what it means when number 1 does it. That's why I always like to go ball number 1. What I tell him, just common sense wise, if number 1 is releasing outside, he's not releasing outside to come back inside. He's releasing outside to run a takeoff route or a corner route, but most of the time he's running a takeoff route. Well, most of the time that's going to tell you to come off that hash mark. Just how far off that hash mark is predicated on what number 2 is doing. But I think a real telltale sign is when number 1 goes inside the corner. When number 1 goes inside the corner, we tell him basically there's only 2 routes that he can run. And the routes that he can run are going to be the square in and the post corner. We don't believe he's running inside to run a post route, because if you look at 2 deep coverage, the reason 2 deep coverage came into play is the 2 safeties are basically defending the post routes just by alignment. So when we get an inside release by 1, what we tell our safeties to do is not gain a lot of vertical depth, because that's what they want you to do. They want to stem you and start to go vertical, and they want that safety to run out of there. And then what they do is they run the square in front of the safety behind the linebackers, or they run the corner route behind the corner in front of the safeties. So just as a coaching point, I think it's important when you go ball 1, the reason we go 1 is if 1's outside or if 1's inside. 1's inside, I don't want him going vertical deep. Now he got to pace himself and be under control, but he has to think he's going to break on the square in or break on that 7 route. Now we're going to talk about playing cover 2, which we say is a soft technique. It's cover 2 soft, and what it tells the corner is he has to read his way out. We love to do it versus twins, any form of 2x2. So if you take 1 and 2 receivers, now we're going to move the corner from 5 yards back to 7 yards. You got to remember, when you educate your kids, in cover 2, people like to go 3 vertical and 4 vertical on you. If you just stay and sit and play vanilla cover 2 hard all the time, if you miss a collision, that poor safety is going to have 2 and 3 people coming down on him. So we like to mix it up and go to our 2 soft, which means the corner is going to read. Now, a lot changes for the corner in his technique. So what I'm going to show you is we're going to put the corner at 7 yards deep, and we turn the corner sideways. If you remember from playing 2 hard, the corner is narrow, then becomes parallel, and plays as if there's a wall behind him. Now what we're going to do is, the football is to my inside, we turn the corner sideways. Now, every technique has read steps. If you go back to too hard, how the corner red runner pass is, he dropped his outside foot parallel. This let him read runner pass. The corner is going to be sideways, and now on a snap of the football, he still has to play the run game. But what he's going to do is on a snap of the football, as he's seeing the quarterback, he's going to now move laterally, and we tell him step replace. Again, we tell him step replace, but he's sideways. He's already in a turn and run position, but he's in a great viewpoint position. He can see quarterback. He can see both receivers. So he's right here, 1, 2, 1, 2. And as we go to the board, this enables him to read. So he's sideways, 1, 2, 1, 2. If we would get the run game of option or toss, we still expect him to force from outside in. Is it ideal? No, but it still gets the job done. Again, we're talking mainly in a nickel situation. If we were in a first or second down situation, I would definitely play hard. Or if we were in a run down tendency, I'd play hard. But if it's 3rd and 9, I want to make sure I'm not going to get beat deep in playing too deep. So that's the biggest change right there, is we turn him sideways, but it enables him, and I'm going to draw these eyes again, believe me, it enables him to see the receivers and the flow of the backs. Okay, as you can see, I have this backwards C, but it's telling you that he's turned sideways. Now, what we're asking him to do is, he's going to read the run flow. He's already done that. Let's talk pass game. He's going to read 1 and 2, and this is what we tell him. If 1 or 2 runs an outside route, you settle. You revert back and play cover 2. But if you never get 1 or 2 settling, you stay on the outside of 1 and 2 and control it vertically. So let's start off with some easy reads right here. The corner's on the outside. On the snap of the football, number 1 goes out, number 2 runs vertical. His rule is if 1 or 2 settles outside, in front of him, he settles. So now he's going to settle. He's at 7, 8, 9, 10. He's about 12 yards. And I tell him revert back to the numbers. So we're in pretty good shape. There's one guy deep, and there's the free safety deep. So there is no mismatch in 2 deep. We're in great shape. Now, as you come back, and I'm going to grab this red one here so we can keep this going. If you would get number 1 running a vertical, and if you get number 2 in the flat, the corner plays it the exact same way. If 1 or 2 settle in the flat, I settle. Free safety is reading 1 and 2. Coach told me stay in between 1 and 2. Number 1 goes vertical, 2 in the flat. He has to work a little bit outside, but what we have is 1 wide receiver in the flat, 1 wide receiver deep, 1 DB in the flat, 1 DB deep. And that's important because you don't want to get too much stress here, because you got to remember, there is no funnel technique going on here when you're reading your way out. None at all. So whoever is going vertical, both of them are getting a free release. So that's why it's important that this guy does a great job of reading. Third route we're going to look at is the reason that it came into play to begin with. If number 2 goes vertical, and if number 1 goes vertical, what we ask the corner to do is step replace, stay on the outside, and what would happen is 2 receivers are vertical, 2 DBs are vertical. We do not ask the corner to make any play on number 3 in the flat. We tell them, you read 1 and 2. So if they're trying to stretch the free safety by going with 2 verticals, well, then we got the corner over top and outside, and we got the free safety playing. The free safety doesn't change a thing. The free safety still stays in between 1 and 2. So he'd be a little more over there. But what he knows is he has help with that corner over top. And again, that corner's turned sideways. He's reading 1 and 2, 2 vertical. We have 2 DBs that are vertical. The left corner is disguising. He's going to come off and play 2 read, 1 and 2 vertical. He stays deep. He's able to make the interception on number 1. The left corner is playing 2 read, 1 and 2 vertical. Right corner comes off, makes the interception. Next route I'd like to talk about is running a smash route, because you're going to get that a lot. And that's where number 1 is going to come out 5 yards and sit, and number 2 is going to come and run a deep corner. We love this versus the smash route. Again, if you go back to the mechanics, the corner is going to turn sideways, step replace, step replace. This receiver at 5 to 6 yards sits in the flat. So that tells the corner he can sit, doesn't have to gain any more depth. But what you gain is, you gain the advantage of him basically playing. Now, we don't want him to drift, but he's at about 10 to 12 there. He's able to read the quarterback and break on the 7 route or break back up real hard on the hitch route. And again, the advantage is he's seeing everything. He knows right off the bat that that's going to be a smash route. The left corner here, he's playing read. Number 1 settles. He's able to now read number 2 on the smash route. Comes off and plays well. Makes an interception. The next route we're going to talk about is probably the most difficult on the read concept. And that's when 1 and 2 are both going to basically release outside. So what it tells the corner and the free safety is the corner staying outside of 1 and 2. The free safety is attempting to get in the middle of 1 and 2. And then what happens is number 2 runs a corner route. Well, the corner has to revert back to his number 1 rule, is if 1 or 2 settle in front of him, he has to settle. So what the corner has to do is he's vertical on number 1, but he still has to see what number 2 is doing. Number 2 runs a corner route. The corner has to come off on that 7 route. And basically what you have is 1 intermediate route, 1 deep route, 1 intermediate DB, 1 deep DB. And this is the hardest one, and we work this 2-3 times a week, because you mainly get this in a bootleg situation where number 1 runs a takeoff and number 2 runs a 7 route. If the corner and free safety both stay deep, then there definitely is a hole in there for the 7 route. The last part of playing what we say is the soft technique, where we read. If we get a 3-by-1 set, where there's 3 wide receivers and 1 over here, we will tell this corner to basically squeeze number 1 on everything. Now, what he has to be aware of is the back. But most of the time, this back is going to stay in and block. If the back would release, then that becomes his number 2. So if 2 goes into flat, he settles. There's only 1 guy that can get deep. But if this back blocks, and the safety's reading it also, if that back blocks, we tell that corner, you basically are taking that guy man-to-man with outside leverage. And the reason we want to do that is, if this guy blocks, we tell this free safety push more toward the 3 side. And he can help us out over here. There's 1, 2, 3 receivers here. There's 2 DBs there. So that's why we like to run the read or the soft concept, is we can tweak the coverage a little bit and let him go one-on-one. We know there's an opening in here, but at least he can drive on it. We're playing 2 read here. The left safety stays in between 1 and 2 and makes a good break on the football. Even though there's 3 by 1, he still must stay in between 1 and 2, even if 2 is on the opposite side. The third part is talking about what we say is two-man. And that's when the corners and all 5 underneath people are going to be manned up on the 5 eligible receivers. Now, the biggest coaching point for the safeties is they have safety force. Because this corner is locked up man-to-man, if you would get any type of option or toss, that safety has to take the force. So that's the first rule right off the top. Now, when you're playing two-man, you got to have a reason why you're playing it. We like to play two-man in 3rd and 4 situations and 3rd and 5 situations. Meaning, we don't want to give up the first down. We don't want to give them up the slant route. We don't want to give them the out route. We want to force them, if anything, to throw the ball deep or buy time for our pass rush. Now, with the safety position, very little changes except they're educated on this. They have force on option or toss. And number 2, they have no help intermediate. Because the inside linebackers are locked up man-to-man, they know there's a big hole in there. Now, the concept is the corners take inside leverage. And by taking inside leverage, they're going to deny the wide receivers from getting in the hole. Now, so the safety run force, he knows he has no help. Besides that, we tell him the most dangerous route is if the corner gets beat on a quick slant, and all we can do is rally, but the route they have to think that's going to be thrown is the takeoff or fade. So we educate them on be ready to break on the takeoff or fade early. As opposed to too deep, if you have a hard corner or a soft corner, that takeoff or fade is going to be much deeper. But because you're in a bump and run press position, that safety has to be educated on the fade is much quicker. Run support, no help intermediate underneath, and the quick fade for the safety. The right safety, we're playing two-man. The right safety is going to make the interception on the deep takeoff route. The technique of the corner is he's going to be in a press position. If it's a Z, he can't be pressed or else it'd be offsides. If it's an X, you're in a press position. We really want to emphasize the weakness of the coverage, meaning no help intermediate because the linebackers are locked in man-to-man. So we're going to take an alignment-wise, we're going to put our outside foot on the inside foot of the wide receiver. So we are going to overemphasize staying inside of the wide receiver. We're going to be in a good bump and run position. So it would be in this position here, only looking at the wide receiver, our outside foot to the inside foot of the wide receiver. Now, what we tell our corners to do is do not move. Let the receiver take his release, be slow to move, and when you do move, move parallel. So again, if I can demonstrate, I'm on the inside of the receiver. We want the receiver to move. If the receiver releases outside, be slow to move and move parallel. And the reason we tell them that is, if I can show you on the board, what we don't want to happen is an outside move and then an inside move, and the corner get beat inside. The corner knows the safety is going to help him on the takeoff route. So the outside release doesn't bother us. But the corner also knows that if he gets beat underneath, that safety's 12 yards deep. It's hard for him to make that play. He's just going to have to run and try to get as least amount of yards after catch as possible. So we want to stay inside, force the outside release. Looking at the corner's technique now, I've turned it around, so now the corner's in a trail position. That's what's going to happen after the release. Now, what we tell our corner is, in a perfect setting, we would want him arm's length from the buttocks of the wide receiver. So here's the wide receiver. We are running upfield or downfield. Here's the wide receiver. We are arm's length away and on the inside hip. Because this is important. You do not want to be right on top of the wide receiver. You want to have enough cushion to read the wide receiver and make a break according to the wide receiver. So we tell our corner is they're looking at the hip. Once the hip lowers, and everybody has to lower their hips to break, you should be in a position or getting ready to make a break. Now, that wide receiver only has three choices. One is to continue running vertical. Well, if he continues to run vertical, we know we have a safety back there. So it narrows it down to the two other choices are if that wide receiver is going to run an in route. What we tell that corner to do is, again, from arm's length, if now, here's the in route by the wide receiver, the corner is inside, what we'd like the corner to do is take an angle to cut it off. And you can see why you need a cushion. If you're right on top, if he's right on top of the wide receiver and the wide receiver breaks, the DB doesn't have an angle to get there. And that's why he needs this arm's length cushion, so that when we do break on the out route, we can take the proper angle to get there. If he would run an out route or a 7 route, which is a corner route, he takes the exact same. He's inside hip. He would break at that angle. If on a 7 route, he would break at that angle. But what young kids and even older kids want to do is they want to play the takeoff route. And you have help on the takeoff route from the safety. So force them to play with a cushion and take the proper angle for the square in, the 7 route, or the out route. That about concludes what I was going to talk about in playing cover 2. I think when you play cover 2, you have to change it up. Now, with the amount of time that I had, I tried to emphasize just the corner and the safety play. And again, just to recap, we play hard corner, we read our way out, and we play 2-man. We believe that gives us flexibility to handle down and distance. And the safety position now, we don't want to change a lot of techniques or give the kids too much to understand. The safeties basically are half-field players. The only change up they have in 2-man, they got to play run support. The corners do play a few more techniques. As always, I appreciate sharing anything at Temple that can help you in your secondary. Feel free to give us a call at any time. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nick Rapone, defensive backfield coach, Temple University. In this segment, we're going to go over bracket and vice coverage. Bracket and vice coverage is utilized in our defense in nickel situations. The reason we like the bracket and vice, as opposed to playing just pure man, we feel we get the best of both worlds. When you bracket and vice, you have horizontal and vertical leverage on receivers, and depending on the route, one of the defensive backs is able to come off and help one of the other eligible receivers. When we talk about bracketing, what bracketing means is that the corner and the safety in a 4-spoke secondary we're going to play with 4 defensive backs and a nickel back. Right now, when we talk about bracketing, we are talking about starting off with a double team on the number 1 receiver, or as we call them, Z. Now, before we get into the actual technique of bracketing, let's go over alignments. What we're going to ask the corner to do in a line is we're going to ask him to be 8 to 9 yards from the man. So if it's a Z, he's off the line of scrimmage, a yard, yard and a half. He'll be 8 to 9 from the man. We're going to ask him to start off with outside leverage. By outside leverage, we're asking the corner to take his inside leg and put it on the outside leg of the wide receiver. When we move to the safety, we're going to ask the safety to be 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. And the safety's alignment is going to be in proportion to where the Z is. So if we have a wide split, he has to work wider horizontally. But what we ask the safety to do is be about 10 yards from the Z. So that should put him over the tackle box. Now, what we ask of their eyes is both set of eyes have to be on the quarterback for the first 3 steps of the play, or if it's a run play. Let's go back just 1 second. When we talk about stance, the corner is going to take a normal man-to-man stance, meaning he is going to be narrow, inside foot back, shoulder square. It's a narrow stance, inside foot back, shoulder square, because he is going to be moving vertically. He is going to be moving backwards. When we talk about the safety's stance, the safety is going to be in what we call a parallel stance. His toes are going to be pointed toward the line of scrimmage. There is no foot that is back because the safety is going to move horizontally. As we're progressing through the technique of bracketing, we have our alignments. We are going to bracket in this position. We're going to say we're going to bracket number 1. So the corner and the safety are going to bracket the Z, the number 1 receiver. To start off with, though, you got to be able to play the run game when you're bracketing. And what we like to say is, if the ball is in the 1 lane, 2 or away, and what we say a 1-lane play is, if it's an option or if the ball is tossed. That's the only thing that tells these 2 defensive backs what 1 lane is. It means the ball's on the perimeter right now. If we do get a 1-lane play, and again, that's why it's important that you start off, both DB's eyes are reading the backfield. Ball was pitched or option in the 1 lane, very simple rule. The corner now is going to take the wide receiver man-to-man from outside leverage, and your run support player is going to be the safety. So this gives us a DB playing the pitch from inside out. It is not ideal, but it is the only check and balance that we have. Now, we get very little option game because we utilize bracket and vice in our nickel package. So it's going to be 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 on up. But this is the only way that we can play the run game. If it is option or toss away, once again, the corner will still take the wide receiver man-to-man, and the free safety will drive the alley inside out. Over here, they have the exact same read, so what you're doing is you're picking up 2 defensive backs playing the option or the toss. Now, as we get into bracketing and vicing, this is exactly what we tell our kids. When you get into bracketing and vicing, you have to break down the routes. The kids have to be educated on the type of routes that they're going to have to be playing. So what we start off with, when we talk about a horizontal route, a route that's going east and west, we say a flat route is a route that's going to the passing strength. A drag route, they're dragging away from you, they're running away from you. a square in where they go vertical and then come inside, an out route where they go vertical and then work outside, a corner route where they're vertical and then go toward the corner, and a post corner route where they start to the post and stay on the post for about 2-3 steps and then come back off and go to the corner. When we talk about vertical routes, these routes are going to be vertical, and what we say in the vertical route is this is when both DBs stay with the wide receiver. So on a curl route, you'll have both DBs covering the curl, both DBs covering the post. On a takeoff route, if it's a skinny takeoff, both DBs. But if it's an outside release, only the outside defensive back. And on a hitch route, whether it be a 3 or a 5-step hitch, both DBs will cover the hitch. Let me go back again. On the horizontal route, both will start off reading, but then only one will play the route that's being run. And this leads to a big key, is both defensive backs have to know where the second most dangerous receiver is located. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through each and every one of these routes and show you exactly the technique and the advantage that you have when you use the bracket technique. Now, before we get into bracketing and vicing, we have to talk 3-step. 3-step is like one lane. It's a quick throw. So what we ask the right corner and the safety to do, if it's a 3-step drop, and on 3-step, this quarterback is going to throw almost immediately. He's going to take one crossover step and throw. So on the 3-step, we ask the corner and the safety to react to the throw. Meaning if it's a 3-step and it's a quick slant, we're going to ask the corner to play the slant, and we're going to ask the safety, using his eyes, to read the quarterback's shoulders. There is no reading of the actual route in 3-step. We are breaking on the quarterback's throw. We're going to get into the horizontal routes. The first route we're going to talk about is the flat route. And that's when this wide receiver would work out in the flat instantly. Now again, the corner and the safety are reading the quarterback. It's not a 3-step drop. The quarterback is dropping back to 5 steps. Once it goes past the 3-step drop, the corner and the safety are going to read the wide receiver's route. So as the corner starts working back vertically, he sees that the wide receiver is working outside right now. This tells him he is able to come off and jump the wide receiver. The advantage is the corner has the outside leverage. So he's a step closer to the receiver. The mechanics of the safety are, once it goes past 3-step, this safety is going to move laterally, and he paces himself as he moves laterally. As he's moving laterally, and he sees the wide receiver has run a flat route, he no longer has to keep his eyes on this wide receiver because he knows it is controlled by the corner. He now has to find the second most dangerous route, and that would be the tight end. So as he's working across and he sees the wide receiver has worked outside, he now can slow down, get his eyes back on the wide receiver, and pick up the wide receiver as an added bonus. Because we're bracketing the number 1 receiver, the number 2 receiver is being handled by an inside or outside linebacker. So the advantage is wide receiver outside, corner jumps him with outside leverage. The free safety is moving laterally, gets the outside release, is now able to come off and help on the number 2 receiver. The next route we're going to is the drag route, and that's when the wide receiver is going to drag across the football field, and we say less than 5 yards. Now, if you go back to your rule of thumb, it's not 3-step drop, it goes to 5-step drop. The corner's working vertically. Once he sees the wide receiver's running away from him, he no longer chases. Let's move to the safety position. The safety starts to work horizontally to number one. He sees number one is running a drag route. He is now able to jump that wide receiver. He has the leverage on the wide receiver. What this tells the corner is he can now look to the most dangerous route. So if number two was running a corner route, and once again, number two is handled man-to-man, this corner is now able to come off and help on the tight end's route. So we have leverage on number one, and the corner is able to come off and take number two along with the inside linebacker. Working to the square-in route. The square-in is when the wide receiver is going to come down vertically and work inside and away from the corner. The corner is going to stay vertical. Once he sees the wide receiver has run away from him, absolutely run away from him, he is now able to come off the wide receiver. The safety is going to work horizontal. Again, he has to pace himself as he comes across. He has to see the speed, the width, and he's looking right at this wide receiver. Once he feels the wide receiver is running a square in, again, he's able to come off and jump that square in. So we have great inside leverage on the square in. The route is being run into the safety. Because it's what we say a horizontal route, where the end of the route is being run flat and it's being run away from the corner again is able to help out on the second most dangerous receiver. The out route. The out route starts off a vertical route, but on its break it becomes a horizontal route. The corner stayed on the outside. Once the wide receiver broke to the out, the corner breaks to the out. He has the outside leverage, and he's breaking on that upfield shoulder. So that should be a good route for the corner to cover because bracketed, he's outside. The safety is going to move horizontally. He's going to pace himself. Once he sees the wide receiver has run away from him, running out route, he is able to stop, look back inside, and help out on any other route. The corner route. Once again, the corner route starts off a vertical route, but on its break, it is working outside. So what the corner does is he backpedals, stays outside leverage. Once the wide receiver breaks corner, the corner breaks to the corner. It's considered an outside route, a horizontal route. The safety works horizontally, sees the break, sees it's an outside break. He now stops, comes off, and again, he's able to help on any route from the second most dangerous receiver to that side. So again, as you can see, when you bracket, one of the DBs, according to the route, becomes an added bonus. The post corner route, a little more complex, but bottom line is it becomes an outside route. The corner's job is to stay on the outside shoulder. When they break post, still stay outside shoulder. As they come back out to the corner, he should have the outside leverage to break downhill on the corner route. The free safety is going to start and work horizontally. Now, he feels it's a post route. What he does on the post route is what we call baseball roll, is he wants to get underneath the post. The corner's over top of the post, the free safety's underneath. But what happens is, after two steps and the receiver runs the corner route, the free safety knows, again, the route's being run away from him. So now he would baseball roll and come off it and then get his eyes back on the second most dangerous receiver and help out. The main use, again, of bracket coverage is in nickel coverage. And now what I'm going to show you is I showed you versus a one receiver or a Z with the tight end. You can really utilize it versus the twin set. So you have your corner, your nickel, and your free safety. You can decide on whoever you want to bracket. There may be a great receiver that you want to bracket. Now, we'll still bracket number one, but what happens is the nickel is bump and run on number two. He's all by himself. The corner and the free safety are going to utilize the bracket techniques. So if you go back through, if number one goes into the flat, The corner jumps number one. He has outside leverage. Now the free safety always has to be aware of the second most dangerous receiver, and that would be the Z. So now what he's able to do, the nickel is playing him bump and run. The free safety is now an extra bonus man, and he's able to play the receiver. So you have leverage on the out route or the flat route, and you have double coverage on the Z. As we just work our way through, if you now take an inside route, the drag route, and use just the fundamentals, the corner knows the drag route is run away from him, so the free safety is able to jump the drag route. Now the corner would come off, and he's able to help out on the number two receiver. So again, you have the best of both worlds. You have an inside route with the free safety jumping it with inside leverage, and then you have the corner able to help the nickel on number two. Now we're going to bracket versus twins. We're going to bracket number one, the outside receiver. Inside route, free safety picks it up. Corner stays outside on two. Bracketing twins. Bracketing number one, the outside receiver. He runs an out route. Corner takes him. Inside safety now helps on number two inside. I'm going to change up here and just show you why we like it even more. I'm still staying with the horizontal routes. Now let's say the number two receiver, or the Z, is the better receiver. So now you want to bracket number two. The corner will take number one, bump and run. Number two is going to come down and run a square in. The nickel stays on the outside. He follows the same rules as the corner does. When the corner just had the bracket, you stay outside of the receiver. The receiver is running a square in. The nickel now is able to pass the square in to the free safety and come off and help the corner, who was bump and run by himself. The free safety works horizontally, sees that it is a square in, is able to jump the square in with inside leverage. As you can see again, it's a 3-on-2, and it's based on the route of the receiver. So you have the best of both worlds. Bracket coverage, we're bracketing number two. Inside release by two. Safety takes it. Corner goes outside for one. Okay, we're going to talk about what we call vertical routes. Now, the only difference in the vertical route from the horizontal route, the break is not that easy to read. We're talking about the curl route, the post route, the takeoff route, and the hitch route. And so this utilizes both defensive backs the entire time. The first one that I'm going to illustrate here is if the wide receiver runs a curl route. It is a vertical route, then he stops and plants and comes straight back toward the line of scrimmage looking for the football. How we defense this is the corner is going to stay outside, leverage, and when he runs the last stem of the route and he's coming back for the football, the corner is taught to stay outside and do not break on the curl route. The free safety is working horizontally. He's pacing himself. He's getting closer. Once he sees that it is a curl route, the free safety is able to jump the curl route. He doesn't look to see if the ball is being thrown. He jumps the curl route because he knows even if the ball's not thrown, the corner is sitting outside. Now, this enables two things to happen. If he gets it perfect timing, we get the interception. If it's not perfect timing and he catches the football, we still have the corner who is able to break and make the tackle. And the third reason, which is an added bonus, if he would get a curl and go, that corner is sitting outside. So the vertical route utilizes both defensive backs. Bracket coverage, we're bracketing number one, the wide receiver. He runs a curl route. Corner stays outside and over top. Inside safety is going to work horizontal and then jump the curl route. As we move on with vertical routes, we're talking about the post route. Wide receiver starts off vertical and then is going to break at a 45-degree angle to the post. Again, we're going to utilize both defensive backs. Because he's sitting at 10 yards and playing horizontal, we have to keep the corner over top on the post route. Corner back pedals, wide receiver breaks post, the corner breaks post, he's over top of the upfield shoulder. The free safety's working horizontally. It's not a curl route, so he can't jump it. And because he's at 10 and the route is probably now at 14, we tell him to baseball roll and stay underneath the post route. So what you have is the free safety under the post and the corner over top of the post. Bracket coverage, bracketing number 1, the outside receiver. He runs a post route. Safety's inside and baseball rolls, corners over top. Still staying with vertical routes, we're talking about the takeoff route. The takeoff route is when a wide receiver is going to run downfield and then run for the deep football. He's not running in the post area. He's running outside. So what the corner's going to do, it's easy for him. He stays outside leverage. Once his cushion is threatened, he turns and runs. Again, we should be in good shape. The free safety works horizontally. Once he sees the wide receiver is running to take off wide and outside, he's able to come off and look for the most dangerous receiver inside. If you would get a skinny takeoff, the free safety wouldn't know if it's a post or a takeoff. So what we tell the free safety to do is play it like a post route, baseball roll, and get underneath it. He knows the corner is going to be over top and outside of it. So we try to tell the kids a skinny takeoff and an outside release takeoff. Most of the time, you're going to get the outside release takeoff. Bracket coverage, we're bracketing number 1, the outside receiver. Runs an takeoff route. The inside safety stops and points to number 2, the most dangerous receiver. The last route with the vertical route, we like to time it up. We call it the smash route. That's when the wide receivers are going to come out anywhere from 5 to 6 yards and sit, and the tight end is going to run a corner route. We still ask the corner to stay outside on the hitch, and we tell the free safety work horizontally, pace yourself, and then jump it. And this corner is sitting off 5 yards. He's able to help you on the 7 route of the tight end, or if it's a hitch and go, he's hanging outside. We don't like to run it a lot, but once in a while we do get caught in it. Once in a while we will bracket a great tight end in our league. In the Big East, we play against some real good tight ends. And it's the exact same rules. You got to remember the corner now only has to be 3 to 4 yards outside, and still we like him 7 yards deep. The free safety is still going to be 10 yards, but because this is what we consider a minus split, we move him over to the center position. But the same rules apply, meaning if the tight end would run an outside route, a horizontal outside route, the corner would jump. Free safety would work horizontally. He sees the flat route. He's now able to come back off and find the most second dangerous receiver. If it's in a twin set, it could be the running back or it could be the backside receiver. So if you just use your rules, everything comes out the same way. If he takes an inside, what we call a drag route, the free safety is able to jump the drag, and now the corner is able to come off free. Again, most dangerous route can be the back, or he's able to help out on the Z on the opposite side. The last route is the vertical route, and on the vertical route, you got to remember it's going to utilize both DBs. So on the vertical route, the corner back pedals, stays outside of the curl. The free safety would melt and jump the curl route. So in this position here, just drawing over top of it, the free safety slides horizontally, jumps the curl route, and the corner stays over top. So you can still use your horizontal and vertical rules in bracketing the tight end. The last portion I'm going to show you in bracketing is it's endless. Right here we have a 1, 2, 3 by 1 formation. Now, what we can do, again, we're nickel defense, nickel, 2 corners and 2 safeties. What we can do is we can bracket 1 and 2 to the same side. Let the inside linebacker take the tight end, the other inside linebacker take the back, and the backside corner take the X one-on-one. So the bracket would be between the right corner and right safety, and the bracket would be between the nickel and the backside safety. So you can utilize this however you want to do it. If you get a 2 by 2 set, where you have 2 quicks to each side, you can bracket either guy that you want. So if you want to bracket 2 inside, what you're going to come over here with is you'd put a dime in, and the safety would be here. And then over here, you'd utilize your nickel and your safety here. And that's what we like to do. We find out who the most dangerous receiver is and what routes they like, and just work our bracket to whoever we want to work it to. Along with bracketing, we like to use the word vice. Vice tells us that we are going to use a technique to the 1 receiver side. Bracket is to a 2 receiver side. Vice is to a 1 receiver side. If we're vicing, now we're going to take the corner and we're going to utilize inside leverage. He's going to be 7 yards deep from the line of scrimmage. The safety now is going to be 12 yards deep, and now we have to move him wider. We tell him we want him 8 to 10 yards horizontally from the wide receiver, 12 yards deep. Now, first of all, playing in the run game. Because he has inside leverage, if we would get option or toss to him in the run game, we expect him to force from inside out and contain the option or the toss. As he forces from inside out, the free safety now has to, what we tell him, play like a center fielder. His inside foot is up, his outside foot is back. He's going to push off the inside foot, roll over, and take that X man-to-man. If we would get option or toss away, now we ask the free safety to be an LE player inside out, and now the corner would lock up the X man-to-man. You always have to handle the run game. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. It's not exactly what you want, but it's a good check and balance. You can still play the run when you're vicing. The mechanics of the vice are a little different than the bracket in the sense of in vicing, you're able to get a collision on the number 1 receiver. So we like to do this again. You got a great wide receiver. It may be 3 receivers here, 1 over here, and you just don't want to let him run his route. He's 7 yards from the line of scrimmage. We will always play our 3-step game the same way. The safety and the corner always react to 3-step. They're reading the quarterback, they react to the 3-step and the direction of the shoulders. Once it goes past 3-step and it's straight drop back, the corner does not backpedal at all. We tell him to play a wall, W-A-L-L. What he is going to do is he's going to collision the number 1 receiver and sit in the flat area. Now, he has 2 jobs. The first one is get a collision and never let number 1 run a vertical route inside of him, meaning right here. We don't want that at all. He has to force, because he has inside leverage, he has to force the wide receiver outside. Because the free safety, and we tell him to play like a center fielder, his inside foot is up, his outside foot is back. He's going to push off, cross over, and take this receiver man-to-man. And we're hoping he takes the receiver man-to-man with help, because this corner has funneled the receiver outside. So what it gives us, a collision on X, a corner sitting in the flat, and a redirected wide receiver out to the free safety. The one exception the corner has is if this wide receiver does cross his face on a drag route or a quick slant route, the corner has to jump him and take him, because we can't expect the free safety who's turning and running deep to be able to take this wide receiver running that inside route. And again, now we use bracket much more than we use vice, but vice helps us out backside one-on-one. One example of utilizing vice versus an offense that likes to throw to their running backs and they're pretty good receivers is we can double vice both number ones. Corners are sitting inside of the number one receivers, funneling number ones outside, funneling them outside, which then lets the corners sit in the flat. Now, what's nice about that is these inside linebackers are taking those running backs man-to-man. So what this inside linebacker knows is he has help outside. So if that running back comes up here and tries to run an option route inside that corner, that inside backer sitting very heavy, if he tries to work outside, he knows he's running into the teeth of a corner. The safeties have the exact same rule. They know the wide receivers are going to be funneled outside, so they're going to baseball roll, get themselves outside. So you can see, you have a good wide receiver, you can get a collision on them. You want to help out on the option routes of the running backs, then this is a coverage to utilize. Vice coverage. Any three-step slant, corner must take them, safety replaces in the flat. Vice coverage, corner must collision, any outside release, sit in the flat, free safety now picks up number one. Vice coverage, corner must collision, any outside release, then sit in the flat. The corner now takes number one, man-to-man. Good job of denying the inside. Corner has him man-to-man. Well, that will conclude the bracket and vice segment. Again, just to summarize it, we love to do it in nickel situations. It enables us to play down and distance, but more important, it enables us to take away their number one and two receiver. If there's anything else that Temple University can help you with, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Thank you. Hello, Nick Rapone, defensive backfield coach, Temple University. In this segment today, what I'd like to talk to you about is our off-man technique and our catch technique. We are not a big bump and run football team, but we do like to utilize what we call zero coverage and man-free coverage, where our corners will be playing off. And in the red zone, we do like to change that technique, and where we tell our corners and free safety to play a catch technique. When we start to talk about our man-to-man, I think there are some key words and some key fundamentals to begin with. When you talk about a stance, we like to get a narrow defensive back stance. And what we tell them by that is you're going to be going backwards. So just getting a regular football position, but we stress being narrow. Outside foot is up, inside foot is back, knees are bent, weight is over the knees, chest is over the knees, chin is up, arms are relaxed. That's what we call our narrow stance. Alignment-wise, we want to be outside foot to inside foot of the wide receiver. That's going to naturally put us on the inside of the wide receiver, and that's what we want. Outside foot to the inside foot of the wide receiver. Now, when we talk about key, we're going to key the quarterback. we have to get a three-step drop key from the quarterback. When you play off man-to-man, you can't just tell the kids, well, don't get beat deep, because you're in one-on-one coverage, which means maybe a fifth guy's blitzing, or if you're in zero coverage, a sixth guy's blitzing. So you can't give up a three-step game the entire time. So as you look over here again, we're going to be 8 to 9 yards from the man. When you play man-to-man, it's from the man. So if it's a Z, and as you know, Z is going to be a yard, yard and a half back, or if it's an X, he's on the line of scrimmage. Again, outside foot to the inside foot of the wide receiver. Now, we're going to walk out. And what I mean by walk out is, if you're 8 to 9 yards, as you're reading the quarterback, we tell our kids to walk out in slow motion. And again, I don't want them running out of there. I want them walking out, reading the quarterback in slow motion. Now, before we get to that, I think there's some key words that you got to understand. We talk about stemming. The word stem to the defensive back tells him to keep horizontal leverage on the wide receiver. If the wide receiver comes off vertical and then moves inside or outside and continues vertical, the defensive back has to match him or mirror him. So he has to stem inside or outside according to the wide receiver. When we talk about look and lean and control of the receiver, as you get into the deep ball, and we'll get into that a little bit later, the deep ball is probably the biggest underplayed ball, because wide receivers are much better than defensive backs on judging the deep ball. So we kind of break it down and really have a good session on in control and out of control of the receiver and looking and leaning. And I'll get to that a little bit later in this program. Let's talk three-step drop. Now, the corner is going to be 8 to 9 yards inside. But what he's doing with his eyes is he's reading that quarterback for three-step drop. And what we tell our kids, we watch a lot of film like you do, or video. We tell them one crossover is three-step drop. So if he takes one crossover, and I'll demonstrate what I'm trying to show you is, quarterback is here, comes off, one crossover, and is ready to throw. Now, he could take another crossover, but most of them just take one crossover. Now, what we tell the corner to do is, don't serve two masters. Go one at a time. So what we want him to see is see the quarterback. Now, what we have found out is, with the right and left corner, the left corner has the harder read because most quarterbacks are right-handed. The right corner has the easier read because, I'll demonstrate, with the right-handed quarterback as he comes off, if he's going to throw to his left, he has to start to open up that left shoulder. It's an easy read. But to the opposite corner, to that left corner, he doesn't know where he's throwing. So again, just a little coaching point, put your best reader here, because this young man with the right-handed quarterback will get a little better read because he has to open his shoulders up to get there. So we tell him three-step. He reads three-step. Boom, stop. Go right to identify the route. Biggest mistake young kids have is they read three-step from the quarterback and they start to break downhill before they identify the route of the receiver. If you look on the board here, the receiver in three-step basically has three routes. We're going to tell him a slant route, a hitch route, and an out route. But we don't know which one of the three is being run. So we read three-step, we get three-step drop. We now go, now these eyes shift, identify the route. I don't expect our secondary to intercept three-step drop. Once in a while they will, but what I do want is no yards after catch. The problem with playing three-step drop is you have to be aware of this vertical lane in here. If this corner is way late breaking on three-step, well, this guy catches the out route, and there's a distance between you and the corner to make an open field tackle. So I want that corner coming down there hard, but I want the corner to know where he is headed. By the same token, I break on three-step, I'm breaking on the quarterback, and I'm breaking straight up and they're throwing an out route, so I have no leverage at all. So again, this is an important point right here. Quarterback, but identify the route. Now, once I've identified the route, I break on the route. So once I identify that it is a slant route, I break and we tell them upfield shoulder on the slant route. If it's an out route, upfield shoulder on the out route. If it's a hitch route, straight up and then shoot my hip. The hitch route's the most difficult one to break on. Now, that's all fine and good, and that's exactly how we teach it. But the second phase, and what everybody's going to, is the three-step game with the out and up, the hitch and go, and the slant and up. And the only way that you can play these routes, and this is the wide receiver, he is running out, and then he's going up. He's run a hitch or a slant, and then he goes up. The only way we can play the second route is if we get a great break, then we can collision the first break. So if this guy runs the out route and we get a great break and he goes to turn upfield, we can collision him and then run with him. Same way on the slant route. If he runs slant and we break upfield shoulder and he goes to go slant and up, we can collision that route and then run with them. You have no chance if you don't identify the route to break to the upfield shoulder. Most of the times when you get quick game, slanting up, out and up, hitching up, the DB's eyes are only looking at the quarterback. So he breaks and he looks for the ball and there is no ball, and then it's too late, that receiver's behind him. So we have a simple rule even when you break on three-step. If I break on the out route, I'm going to break to control. I'm going to take a look. If there is no ball, that ball's not coming, because in three-step game, that ball got to be coming right now. If there is no ball as you're breaking on three-step game, get your eyes right back to the receiver and think out and up, hitch and go, slant and go. Because they are becoming very big routes in this day and age. And it's hard for the defensive back to intercept the three-step game and play the second part of that phase. We're looking here at three-step. And remember, DB comes out slow, reads a quarterback, then identifies the route. Once again, DB comes out slow, read quarterback, identify the route. You're looking at the right corner, good break. This position in the left corner, another good break, ball was not able to get off. Okay, we're going to move on to five-step drop. Three-step drop we've covered, and basically I think three-step is hard to play. You got to have a pretty good defensive back, but the main thing in a three-step that we don't want to ever give up, just concluding in three-step, is you don't want to give up the hitch and go or the out and up, and you don't want to be able to give up in three-step the one-on-one tackle, so that's why you got to break downhill hard on it. Moving on to five-step drop. When we say five-step, the quarterback has naturally taken at least 2 crossover steps, which means now it's going to be a deeper, longer route. That's how you got to educate your kids. 3-step is usually 0 to 6. Anything over a 3-step drop, anything over a 3-step route is going to get yourself 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 yards. Now, it starts off the same when you teach it. You read the quarterback. You come out, what we say, slow. Once you know it's not 3-step, though, you see that quarterback crossing over twice, now you have to, what we say, accelerate your pace. You were in a slow walkout mode. Now you got to accelerate your pace on the wide receiver. Now, from a visual point of view, you looked at quarterback, you saw it wasn't 3-step. Now, if I'm looking at quarterback, I see it is not 3-step. Now I rivet my eyes to the wide receiver, and now I'm just keying that wide receiver. Now, visually, we like to look at the hip, the inside hip, because when the hip lowers, that usually means he's going to control his body or attempting to control his body to make a break. The other visual key we like to look at, when you watch wide receivers, a lot of them will accelerate their arms just before they're about to break to try to gather themselves. So we look for the hip and we look for the arms. But the other thing you're looking at now is you've been in slow motion. Now you have to accelerate or pace yourself. So you got to kick it into some real fast backpedaling. Now you're backpedaling. You're pacing yourself to the pace of the receiver. Now, the next item you have to be aware of is the word stem, S-T-E-M. The wide receiver is going to run vertical and then stem. Now, what is the stem? I said earlier it's one of the key words. You got to remember, the defensive back is inside of the wide receiver. The only advantage he has is he's not going to give up the inside route. He's going to be a step closer to all inside routes. Make the ball be thrown outside, it's a further throw. Now, when a wide receiver is going to stem you, what he's trying to do is take a little figure-8 move and get head up on you. If he gets head up on you, now if he goes inside or outside, you don't have that extra step on him. So as you go to the board here, that wide receiver has gone vertical, so you're pacing yourself. You're attempting to backpedal as fast as he's running forward. Now he stems himself, so now what you have to do if you go down here is you have to move laterally and stem yourself. And when we talk about stem, and take a look at my feet on the stem, it's important when you stem to keep your shoulders square. And always we ask our kids to do with our lower body is when they stem, if the receiver stems inside, is take a lateral step inside. Again, I'll show it to you again. I'm going to walk up here a step. I'm backpedaling, and the receiver stems inside. You take a lateral step inside, gather, and then continue your back pedal. But what's important if you look at my shoulders is your shoulders have to stay square so you're still vertical. If your shoulders are turned, you're going to stay inside, but you're not going to continue to gain the depth. So as we get back to this board, vertical, vertical pace. He stems, you stem. So if we took a camera and froze it, you would still have the inside leverage on the wide receiver that you started with, and that's all you're trying to maintain through the route. As we go back up here now, by pacing yourself, you have a cushion. And a cushion enables you to break when the wide receiver breaks. And then it all goes back to playing 3-step drop your breaks are all the same. If you come over here, when the wide receiver now has stemmed you and is going to run an out route, as a defensive back, you're inside out. When you make your break, you want to break upfield shoulder. Now, let's talk about when you make this break. We tell our kids all the time, don't serve two masters. And this is what I'm talking about. If I'm going to make a break, I make my break and I'm breaking on the out route out there. It's important that I take my eyes and I look at my target and I'm sprinting to the wide receiver. Because if I make my break and the wide receiver's 4 yards ahead of me, if I look at the quarterback and see if the ball is being thrown, and I'm attempting to close on the wide receiver, we say you're serving two masters. First of all, you're not in control of that receiver to make an interception. Second, you're slowing yourself down. Your eyes should be pointed toward the wide receiver, and you should be driving to the wide receiver. And as you drive to the wide receiver, we say if you're in control of the wide receiver, then you can look for the football. And what does control mean? Control means nothing more than hip to hip, or sometimes arm's length. If you're in arm's length, you're in control of them. If you're not in control, never look back for the football, because you have to be in position to make the tackle when he makes the catch. If you're in control, you have a chance to make the interception. We're now looking at 5-step drop. Once it goes past 3, corner accelerates, keep inside leverage, break on the upfield shoulder. We're in man free here. Right corner plays the post route very well. Once it goes past 3-step, accelerate, play the upfield shoulder. Good job on the cutoff on the post. Once again, just emphasizing the right corner playing the post route. Good inside leverage. Now you have both DVs to the twin side, playing the double post. Keep inside leverage, break on the upfield shoulder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through a couple breaks to show you exactly what we're talking about as far as pacing yourself and breaking on the upfield shoulder. Coach Ninus is our defensive line coach, and he's volunteered himself into this task right here. Now, I'm the defensive back. Now, I'm going to break on the out route. Now, I have a nice cushion. So in slow motion, Coach Ninus is going to take 1 or 2 steps, and then he's going to break on the out route. When he breaks on the out route, what he's doing is he's over-emphasizing the upfield shoulder. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to break downhill. And what I want to do, as Coach takes one more step, if I'm not in control of the receiver, I want to take this arm and knock down the upfield shoulder. And the reason why is this. The only arm Coach Ninus has to make the catch with is his left hand now. Again, to be emphasized, if I would come in and knock down the inside arm, Coach Ninus can still cradle the football and make the catch. So this is what I'm talking about, breaking on the upfield shoulder, and I want to break that arm down. Now, as Coach is breaking, I'm breaking. If I get there extremely well and in good shape, I can do what you call shoot the hip. I'm breaking upfield arm now. That's my landmark. If you remember what I talked about a minute ago, Coach Ninus breaks. I'm not looking at the football. I'm breaking to his upfield shoulder. So as I'm breaking his upfield shoulder, I am now in arm's length or closer. I'm in control. I can now look for the football. If I'm in great shape and the football's coming, I can do what we call shoot the hip. I'm going to come right in here, shoot the hip, and extend the arms out and make the interception. I can also be in terrific position for the out route and just continue here, and it becomes a dogfight and make the interception. The tough part of going underneath coach is I better make the interception. And a lot of guys do, but if you miss the interception here, Coach Ninus catches a football and he's downtown. That's why we always tell him, go through the upfield shoulder. Now, the next route we're going to look at is when he breaks on the curl. And what Coach Ninus is going to do is he's going to come upfield, he's going to plant and work back toward the curl. Now, this is more difficult because his back is to me. So what we're going to do is we're going to break. Now, if I'm in control, we call this again shoot the hip. I want to shoot inside and then get back in a straight line and make the interception. Now, a lot of these routes, you get past breakups. But you got to remember the rule book. If I go over coach's shoulder pads and try to break that arm down, that's pass interference. So what you have to do, and a coach, I'm going to slide you this way right here so we can get a view. We tell our defensive backs, if you're breaking on the curl or the hitch route, we're now going to come down low, club our arms, go up through the body, and expand the elbows. Again, we can't break upfield shoulder because we'd be getting over top, and that's pass interference. So what we're going to do is come underneath, bring our arms up, and expand the elbows out. Okay, what we're going to talk about here now is playing the deep ball. And this is the one where I believe the wide receiver truly has the advantage, and this is why. He's used to judging a deep ball a lot more than I'm used to judging. I attempt to put my kids in a position of playing the deep ball as much as I can, but I still don't get it as much as the wide receiver coach puts his kids in position. Now, when you play the deep ball, let's start off again now. The receiver's already released outside. Now, from the get-go, what we're trying to do is we are trying to get in control of the receiver. Now, as I'm running to get in control of the receiver, what I don't want to do, if I have great speed or more speed than Coach Ninus would have, is I don't want to continue to run parallel with Coach. Because if I run parallel with Coach, and I'm going to stop and just go on the board right here. Coach is going to stay where he is. When people throw the deep ball, there's the wide receiver. When they throw the deep ball, they want some grass out there, meaning they want some horizontal separation so the quarterback can lay the ball over the outside shoulder. So I don't want to run parallel with Coach. What I want to try to do, if I can get in the control, as Coach will backpedal back here, if I get in control where I'm hip to hip with Coach, I want to run Coach into the sideline. I want to take away that green grass. Basically, I want to cut Coach off. I want to take his real estate away. Now, this is just running. The ball hasn't been thrown yet. We're running downfield. I want to not run parallel. I want to cut him off, and I can't emphasize that enough. Because you can be running downfield. I can be running downfield and in control with Coach. But if he has 8 to 9 yards outside of him, at some point he's going to turn outside. I can't make the play if Coach runs to the sideline 2 to 3 yards and that ball is laid over his shoulder. But if I can cut Coach off, I can go back to the start of the play and make the quarterback make a perfect throw. Quarterback doesn't have to make a perfect throw if it's 8, 9 yards away. He can just lay it over top for Coach. So that's the first part of the deep ball, is cut off his real estate. Now, Coach is in front. So I have to determine, can I get in control or can I get out of control? If I'm an arm's length away, I'm considered out of control. So the only thing I can do now is read two indicators from coach. One is his head to look back for the ball, and number two are his hands. So the only thing we tell our kids is, if you're not in control, do not look back for the football. You got to play the eyes and the hands. Now, if the ball's being caught and you're not in control, the only thing you can do is what we tell them is the closest arm, go for the strip. That's all you can do. But if you're not in control and you're looking back for the ball, he's going to separate even more. Because unless, come on back, coach, unless it's a perfectly thrown ball, a lot of deep balls, he has to hesitate just a second to adjust to the ball. And if I'm only looking at coach as he's hesitating, at least I can make the tackle on the deep ball. But it's when you look back, when you're not in control, is when you get into trouble. Now, if I am in control, and I'm going to turn a little bit more this way, control is hip to hip, and even control is a little bit behind the hip. I'll let the kids go with that. Now, I'm going to turn back sideways. If I'm in control, now, we tell them there's look and lean, meaning if I'm going to look for the football, I have to lean, because just your natural reactions, and again, I'm going to take coach this way again. We're playing the deep ball. We're both looking back for the ball. As you look back for the ball, you can see my shoulder naturally is going to drift to the field. So there's a horizontal separation between coach and I. The ball is being thrown out there, but just naturally, I'm going to drift. And then that ball is going to be laid in there. So what we tell our kids is, when you look, you have to lean. We call it the L&L, look and lean. And by looking and leaning, this is accomplished. You're working toward where the football is going to be thrown, and you can feel where the wide receiver is. So again, I'll walk through it this way. I'm in control. I look for the football. I'm going to look and lean. I see the football. I feel coach. I'm going in the direction of where the football is going to be going. The next part I want to talk about is what we call the catch technique. And we like to use the catch in the red zone. A lot of people call it green zone, red zone. We like to use it from the 20-yard line in, but really specifically from about the 15 or 14-yard line in. Now, what we feel it gives us is you're going to play from a flat foot position, which means both feet are firmly planted on the ground. There is no backpedaling to it. So you should get a pretty good plant and break. It enables us to break on the short game, and you can still take away the fade route. Because when you get down in the red zone, if you bump and run them, then they're going to throw a fade on you, and it becomes a jump ball. If you play off man at all and you backpedal, then you're looking at giving up the slant route or the out route. And again, with a little bit of vertical space in between, now you're going to make an open field hit. So what we try to teach is called the catch technique. Now, the catch technique involves from a flat foot position, toes are going to be parallel, and you're going to act again, just like in one of the cover 2 videos that I did, that you're playing a wall behind you, meaning you're not going to move vertically until the receiver goes by you. Now what you want to do is get in a good football position. There is no 3-step read as opposed to off man. You're just keying the wide receiver. Now, I'm going to be inside leverage. So my outside foot is to the inside foot of the wide receiver. I'm going to be parallel. I'm keying the wide receiver. And I'm going to mirror the wide receiver. If the wide receiver would stem inside or outside, I move laterally inside or outside. The wide receiver runs vertical, I wouldn't move a muscle, even though in actuality what your kids are going to do is bounce a little bit, because as defensive backs you're always used to moving somewhere, most of the time backwards, as we know. But I'm going to sit in there and I'm going to take you to the board here, and here's the wide receiver. The ball's on the 10-yard line. You can be 6 to 8 yards. There's your inside leverage. And you want to slide. So, meaning, if the wide receiver stems outside that inside, you slide and you should still have your inside leverage on the wide receiver. If they're going to run any type of vertical route, the natural progression that you'd like is slide, slide, and then jam. You want to get a jam on him. If he's going to get anywhere close to you, you want to get a jam on him. That would be, ideal, because down there most of the time that ball has to get off real quick. Now, when you talk about playing the short game, if the wide receiver is going to run a quick slant, then it's perfect for you. You're keying the wide receiver. As he runs his slant, you slide one step inside, and then you go downhill and break on the upfield shoulder. So this DB here would take a slide step and break downhill on the upfield shoulder. Again, what we like about him, and if you look at my feet again, my feet are firmly in the ground, so I'm able to plant. I'm not backpedaling where the feet come off the ground. I'm in here, and as a matter of fact, I tell the kids to put weight on the inside of the feet. So as they slide, they're able to push off and break downhill. They mirror. If the wide receiver runs a slant, they end up running a slant from their position. If the wide receiver would come out here and run an out route, then the DB would slide and break downhill for the out route. And again, I'm going to go back to saying, you're breaking downhill on 3-step drops. On any type of vertical route, you're attempting to reroute it. Now, what we get a lot in practice and in the games is the outside release on the fade route. So what we tell our kids to do, if they're going to release outside, slide, slide, and if we can just push that wide receiver a little bit and actually widen them more, because that makes the throw harder. We're already at the receiver's depth, so all we have to do is turn and play the football. But if we can force that wide receiver to get a little bit wider, to cut off the throw for that quarterback, to make that throw to that quarterback that much tighter, we're in pretty good shape. We love to run it in the red zone. Once in a while in the open field, we'll run it on a third down play. If we don't feel comfortable, now we'll run it off a man free. If it's 3rd and 4, and we don't feel comfortable with the corner playing bump and run, we will play catch technique with the free safety over top. That basically concludes the segment on off man and catch. I hope that you found at least 1 or 2 items that help you, and that's what you should always look for in a tape or a clinic. Everybody has their own little way of doing it. But if anything I gave you or anything you saw can help you, please use it. If you need any more information, please don't hesitate to contact me at Temple University. Thank you. Hello, I'm Nick Rapone from Temple University, their defensive backfield coach. Today we're going to talk about defensive secondary group and drill work. Hello, my name is Nick Rapone, defensive backfield coach, Temple University. During this session, we're going to coach and talk about teaching drills that you can incorporate doing 1 and 2-a-days. I have with us today 4 of our players. The first one will be Jamal Wallace. Along with Jamal, we will have Philip Shepard. Following Philip will be Terrence Leftwich. And bringing up the anchor will be Gerard Bishop. Now let's get on to coaching some football and teaching defensive backfield drills the Temple way. The first segment we call our nuts and bolts, and we do these 4 things each and every time before practice. It serves 2 purposes. One, it's task specific, and number 2, we're letting the guys get warmed up. The first drill we're going to execute is called a look and lean. And what Philip is going to do is he's going to come out under control, and he's going to come down 5 yards and work himself outside as if he's playing the deep ball. It's called look and lean. Here we go. Sit, hit. As you can see, he leans and looks back toward the ball. Second drill we're going to do, Gerard Bishop's going to come up here and do it. It's going to call plant, pick up, roll over. Gerard's going to face there. His feet are on the line. All we want to do here again is it's a nice simple drill, but it's going to start him getting loose for planting and breaking. He's going to get in a good football position. Set, hit. He's going to plant, pick up, and roll over. Let's take one more look at it. He's going to go a little bit slower. All he's doing is getting in a good football position and getting himself, this time, Gerard, you're going to break to your left. Set, hit, plant foot, pick up, roll over. We're going to have Philip and Lefty. They're going to execute a strip drill, and we do this each and every time before practice. We were fortunate enough last year, 1999, to be second in the Big East in turnovers. And one reason that we were is we worked on stripping the football. All we're going to do is get in this position. Philip's going to hold the football in his right hand. Lefty's going to take his left arm and club it over, and then he's going to take his right arm and pull the ball out. Now let's do it full speed. And again, this is just before practice. Nice and easy. Here we go. Set, hit. The fourth and final drill is called a bad ball drill. We play a lot of bump and run. And again, all we want to do is get the defensive back to get himself in a task-specific position, and also we're just warming up. So what I'm going to do as a quarterback is I'm going to take a step to my right, which is the DB's left, and then come inside. The DB is going to overstep, but what I want him to do is turn around and find the football and strip it. Let's take a look at it. Set, hit. The next part of our drill is, again, we're going to work 2 areas. Still, we're getting the young men warmed up, and number 2, we want them catching the football. The most difficult task for a defensive back is to catch the football as it's coming right at them, because it's 2 forces coming at each other. So what we call this drill is just coming at me drill. Jamal's going to come down the line from 15 yards and just catch the football using his hands coming right at me. Let's take a look at it. Set, hit. As you notice with Jamal, he put his hands out. He went for the football. He used his hands. He took the football, then brought it into his body and continued on down. The second drill is coming at me, but now we want to emphasize breaking on an out route. So Terrence Leftowich is going to come at me, and then when I give him a shoulder, he's going to break on an out route outside. And again, what we want Terrence to do is come down, break on an out route, and again, extend those arms and catch the football. Let's take a look at it. Set, hit. Once again, all that does is get our people ready to play football, but we're working something task specific. The third part of incorporating the ball with them catching is called shoot to hip. Now this time, we'll have both of them running at me simultaneously, and the rear man, when he sees the ball being thrown, will shoot the hip as quick as he can. So he wants to get his hip as quick as he can by the guy in front of him and catch the football. Let's take a look at it. Set, hit. That concludes right now getting in proper position, catching the football, and still maintaining we're getting him loose. These next two drills are going to be about zone football. And what we want to do is we want to increase our defensive backs' ability and confidence to break in their area within their zone. So what we've done is we've taken two cones and put them 15 yards apart. We've taken the defensive back, we've put him in the middle of his zone. So he has equal distribution between each zone. We've moved the defensive back 2.5 yards behind the line, so he's 17.5 yards deep. What Philip is going to do is Philip's going to get in a good football position. He's going to read the quarterback's shoulders, and whichever way I break, he's going to break, shoot the hip, and make the interception. Now let's take a look at the zone break. Hit. Once again, this drill is to increase their confidence in breaking on the football. The second zone drill will be the zone back and break. Once again, the cones are set up the exact same way, except this time we'll take the defensive back and we'll move him 2.5 yards up in front of the line. Now, he's going to read the quarterback, he's going to backpedal. Once he sees the direction of the quarterback, he's going to break at a 45-degree angle downhill, shoot the hip, and make the interception. Let's take a look at it. Set, hit. Very important that you incorporate this drill every day. During 2 days, we'll do it either in the morning or in the afternoon because it increases their ability to break in zone football. As we continue in our drill work, now we're going to take time and work on individual cuts. These serve two purposes. There's 4 major cuts that we work on each and every day. We're going to work on breaking on a square in, we're going to work on breaking on a post, an out route, and a post corner. We play so much man-to-man, we feel we have to duplicate these routes each and every day. What we ask the defensive back to do is he's going to backpedal. When the quarterback raises up, he's going to make his individual cut. The first cut is going to be the square in. Let's take a look at it. Set, hit. Set, hit. The importance of the 2 cuts that we just executed is we're asking the defensive back to run a 90-degree break on the square in, and then we just asked Philip to take a good 45-degree angle breaking on the post route. Now let's take a look at the out route. Set, hit. The fourth and final cut is going to be the post corner route. But we're going to ask the defensive back to break on the post route, and then he's going to use his momentum and baseball roll and now get himself to a corner route. Set, hit. Again, what we just tried to emphasize was breaking down the individual cuts. Those are the 4 main cuts that our guys are going to see when they play an opponent on Saturday. The next drill that we have to work on each and every day is called the stem drill. The stem drill, again, deals mainly with man-to-man coverage. At Temple University, we pride ourselves on playing man-to-man. So if our young men are going to play man-to-man, we have to put them in position. The stem deals with starting off in a vertical position and maintaining a vertical position, and also having control horizontally. That when the wide receiver takes an inside or outside move and tries to get head up on the defensive back is able to move himself horizontally and still maintain the leverage that he needs. Let's take a look at the stem. Set, hit. Good job, Philip. As you can see by what Philip was doing, he was going vertically, and then when I moved to my right, which was his left, he kept his shoulder square, worked himself to his left, and maintained the exact same leverage that he started with on the receiver. Now we're going to take a look at Jamal going the opposite way. Set, hit. Very essential in any type of scheme that deals with a lot of man-to-man, and especially playing off man-to-man. This segment is going to deal with using the cones and working on our feet and hips. The reason we like to use cones is we can get rapid fire. Doing 2-a-days when we have about 10, 12 defensive backs, and coach only gives us 9, 10 minutes of fundamentals, we need to get as much as we can out of the time. So what we do right here is we incorporate the use of 5 cones. We call it our W drill. What Gerard is going to do is he's going to backpedal and brake. Backpedal and brake. And then what we usually have is another coach on the other end, and as Gerard comes through, the ball will be thrown to him. Again, the beauty of this drill is you can take 5 cones, 10 to 12 defensive backs. In about 2 minutes, you can get your work done. What we want to accomplish here is backpedaling as fast as you can and braking downhill. It's 25 yards worth of work. It goes quick. At the end, the ball is going to be thrown as they're coming through that last cone as fast as they can. Let's take a look at the W drill. Set, hit. The other important ingredient is, as you brake to your left, the plant foot has to be the right foot. Now we're going to go opposite, and we're going to brake to our right, and Gerard Bishop will use his left foot as the plant foot. Set, hit. The second drill that we're going to use incorporating our cones, we call it the bump and run drill. Once again, you're only going to need 4 cones. The defensive back is going to work laterally and shoot his inside arm as if he's bumping. Then he's going to imitate as if the wide receiver ran a takeoff and a comeback off the takeoff. He's going to be as fast as he can. Once again, we can take 9, 10 defensive backs and get this done in 2 minutes. Let's take a look at the bump and run drill. Set, hit. As you can see, by the way, Philip he emphasized shooting the arm, then he went on the takeoff. He's reading the wide receiver runs a comeback, he wants to come back as fast as he can. Now let's take a look at Jamal Wallace going the other way. Set, hit. Once again, the cones, 4 or 5 cones, excellent if you only have 2-3 minutes to get a lot of defensive backs through, with them still emphasizing working on their feet and hips and then incorporating a ball at the end. These next 2 drills are going to incorporate bump and run. We play bump and run probably about 30% of the time. In this drill right here, all we're trying to do right here is let the defensive back stay in sync with the wide receiver, and when the wide receiver attempts to go vertical, the defensive back is going to collision him with his inside arm. Let's take a look at our bump and run drill. Set, hit. As you can see, the wide receiver is trying to get upfield, the defensive back stays in sync, then collisions him with his inside arm. Let's do it coming back now. Set, hit. Be patient, wait on the wide receiver, do not lunge, keep your shoulders back. Nice job, men. The next one dealing with bump and run, that was a horizontal drill. We call this a vertical dog fight with the bump and run drill. In this drill right here, the wide receiver is going to attempt to work upfield vertically, and he's going to try to move vertically and then at a 45-degree angle. The defensive back wants to, again, get a great collision, always attacking the pectoral muscles of the wide receiver, and always having an extension. When you play bump and run, when you execute the bump, your arm has to be extended. If the elbow's bent, then the wide receiver can collapse the arm and get by you. Let's take a look at vertical bump and run. Set, hit. Upfield shoulder, staying underneath them, extending the arm, always extending the arm. Okay, good job. Let's go back now. Let's go back. Again, now what's important here is this wide receiver, you have to designate and tell him which way to start. He's going to start to his right, the DB's left. So that enables the defensive back to know he's going to shoot with the inside arm. And again, we want the arm extended and we want it on the pectoral muscle. And then we want his shoulder pads lower than the wide receiver's shoulder pads. Okay, let's take a look at it, man. Set, hit. Good extension, then coming back at a 45-degree angle. Always working back, controlling it. 2 key drills that enable us to keep vertical and horizontal position on a wide receiver as we execute bump and run. We're now going to work on playing half field. We play half field mainly in our nickel situations. And what we ask of the half field player is he has to take from sideline to the middle of the goal post. So we take 2 specific breaks and work on those 2 breaks each and every day. The first break is going to be where he has to backpedal, open his hips, break at a 45-degree angle toward the sideline. This is so he can play the deep fade route. We're going to look at 2 of them right here. Again, playing half field, backpedaling, opening the hips at a 45-degree angle to take away the deep fade route. Set, hit. What we're trying to incorporate also is catch the ball at the highest point and get to the nearest sideline. Now let's look at Mr. Wallace. Same exact drill, and it's important that you emphasize reading the quarterback's shoulders and then breaking at that 45-degree angle. Highest point, bring it down. Excellent job. Secure the football. The next cut that you have to work on in two deep coverage, you're either going to throw the ball outside or they're going to try to split you down the middle. Now we're going to take a look at this time the defensive back vertically going down the hash mark and then breaking toward the middle of the football field. Here we go. Let's take a look at it. Set, hit. Once again, the emphasis was on they're putting 3 receivers deep, 2 outside, 1 down the middle. That half-field safety has to be able to control right down the middle of the goal post. He has from the middle of the goal post to the sideline. Set, hit. What you also want, as you can see by the way Lefty just caught it, catch the ball at the highest position, using your hands, secure it, get to the nearest sideline. These two drills here, once again, deal with specifically playing some type of man coverage. And again, I'm going to go back to, you have to be so task specific because you have so little time in fundamental drill to get accomplished what you need to get accomplished. This drill here we call is the pressure drill. And it deals with the wide receiver and the defensive back. The wide receiver is going to run down the field 5 yards, and he's going to lean into the defensive back. And he's leaning into him to get that defensive back to work more toward the inside. What the defensive back knows is, once the wide receiver leans into him, or when the defensive back feels pressure, he's going to then undercut the wide receiver opposite the pressure. Let's take a look at man-to-man pressure drill. Set, hit. Again, now what was executed there is they were running down 5 yards. The outside wide receiver leaned into the defensive back. The defensive back felt pressure and he undercut the wide receiver on the out route. Now let's take a look at the same drill going the other way. Set, hit. The coaching point in the drill that we just demonstrated is the defensive back's shoulders must be lower than the wide receiver's shoulders. So his center of gravity, or he's in a position with his center of gravity to make the cut that he has to make. This portion of the man-to-man drill is we play a lot of two-man once again in nickel situations where we have 2 deep safeties and 5 underneath DBs. And their job in this coverage is to take away any inside route, meaning any square in, any out route where they undercut it. And what we ask here is the defensive back, Terrence, is going to be arm's length from the wide receiver. And he never gets any closer. And his key is to read the hips. Once the hips settle down, he settles down. If Gerard makes any type of break to the out or to the square in, Lefty is then going to undercut it. So let's take a look at the two-man technique. Set, hit. Again, what you can see, what was executed is that when Gerard Bishop made a cut inside on the out route, the defensive back read it, and instead of continuing up vertically, he horizontally closed, shot the hip, and made the play. Now let's take a look at the same drill, and this time the wide receiver is going to run the out route. Set, hit. As was indicated, when the wide receiver ran the out route, the defensive back took a 45-degree angle and shot the hip to make the play. This is a drill that we try to incorporate also, whether it's in the morning or the afternoon of two-a-days, or if we're in a game week, we'll do it on a Sunday night or a Tuesday, and that's working on the crack. If you play a lot of man coverage, then one way that offensive people take away the secondary from run support is they crack inside, and they try to occupy two people. They try to occupy the man they're blocking and occupy the man that's playing man-to-man on them. The way we teach crack is you cannot come off and replace until you see engagement by the wide receiver on an opposite color jersey, which would be the outside linebacker or the defensive end or the safety. So we take a look at it. So this drill set up, we have three guys set up. This is the intended defensive player that's going to get blocked. Gerard is the wide receiver that's going to be the blocker, and then Philip's going to be the defensive back. What I'm looking for in this drill is that when he makes contact, then and only then can Philip advance to the line of scrimmage, and his rule is to come off the buttocks of the wide receiver. Let's take a look at the crack block. Set, hit. As you can see, Philip did two things. Philip worked inside, and he didn't gain a lot of vertical leverage because of the angle that the wide receiver took. And number two, as soon as he did see engagement, he was hollering crack, crack, crack. Let's take one more look at the crack. Set, hit. Just as a coaching point, what we tell the defensive back is, once he does advance to the line of scrimmage, he attacks the first opposite color jersey that he sees. Hello, my name is Nick Rapone, defensive backfield coach, Temple University Owls. Today's segment is going to be about the art of tackling. We've been very fortunate the last 3 out of 4 years at Temple, where defensively we've been 33rd, 19th, and 18th. One of the biggest reasons for that is how our kids take the approach and what we believe is how we teach the art of tackling. To assist me today, to my right, is going to be DeLon Wilburn. It's going to be Matt Douglas in the middle. It's going to be DeMarco Dotson on the far right-hand side. Now, when we talk about the art of tackling, what we have to understand as football coaches is the game has changed. The game is played like basketball. It's in the open space. So when you ask your defensive back, your linebackers to make open field tackles, they're doing it with much more space than they've ever done it before, which means it's so much harder to tackle in this day and age. We can talk about people to stand up and give clinics about tackling, but the true fact is, in this day and age, especially in the college ranks, we only tackle doing two-a-days, and we only tackle in spring football. So during the season, everything is thud. So the most repetitions our kids get is in a tackling circuit, which we do every day. Now, when you talk about tackling, what it involves is, it involves a young man's eyes, it involves a young man's shoulders and arms, and it involves a young man's legs, because that's the component of tackling. But you have to give them a guideline on how to tackle. You have to give them some aiming points. You have to teach them a little bit of geometry of how to take an approach to it. Now, the three phases that will be emphasized in our teaching today of tackling is going to be, one, the approach. Number two is going to be the contact. And number three is going to be the follow-through. Okay, now let's get started on the art of tackling. Now, when we talk about tackling, the first thing we have to do is get in any football skill or drill is get in a football position. So what we ask our kids when they tackle is get in a normal football position, but in a perfect world, when you make that tackle, if I was running to that sideline, Matt would want to have his left foot up. So if I'm going to that sideline, I have to go through his entire body. So Matt's in a good football position. His eyes are up, shoulders are square, toes are pointed straight ahead, arms are ready. Here's another view of Matt looking straight at you. Again, the eyes have to be up, eyes to the sky, shoulders are square, arms are in close to the body, toes are pointed straight ahead, knees are straight ahead. He's in a good striking football position. Now let's talk about the fit. At this point, Matt is in what we call the fit position. We're just teaching form right now. We're not talking about an approach. He's leading with the shoulder pads, eyes to the sky, good football position. If the ball is in the hand it's supposed to be, we got a chance to knock it out. Now, he's in a fit position. His first part of the contact is already started. The second part of the contact is he is now going to wrap his arms around DeLon. Wrap. Now this is the contact position right here. Leading with the shoulder pads, eyes to the sky so he can see, and his arms are wrapped so he can hold on to the ball carrier. Now at this point right here, we have the contact point. The third point we have to talk about now is the follow through. So on the command, what Matt is going to execute is he's going to roll his hips, which is now going to cause the thrust of the shoulders, the arms, and the legs to make the contact on the ball carrier, which is going to stop the ball carrier's progress forward. And what we emphasize on the follow-through is the contact is shoulder, arms, legs. The follow-through is Matt will now carry him for 5 yards. Here we go, Matt. Set, hit. Good. Now we're going to take a look at it full speed. Again, he is in a fit position. He has already started one of his contact areas, his shoulders. Eyes to the sky. Here we go. Set, hit. Thrust of the arms and run them backwards. Good. Now this drill right here is just to get us out of a stationary point of view. Don't worry about the approach right now. What we're talking here is the fit, which gets us into the contact area, and then the follow through. What DeLon is going to do is he's going to walk into Matt. Matt is now going to fit on him, fit to a moving target, and then follow through. So we have contact and follow through. Set, hit. Now, what we're going to move into now is a sideline tackle. Now, what we're going to start to incorporate is the approach. But we're going to give them a set way to go. Again, in our tackling circuit, all we want to do is execute the skills they'll need for Saturday or Friday night. What's going to happen here is DeLon's the ball carrier. He's going to run to his left, right at this cone right here. DeMarco is going to be the tackler. He's going to run to his right, and there should be an intersection. So what should happen, there should be a formed tackle. But what we're teaching DeMarco is he has to take a horizontal angle downhill to stay inside out on the ball carrier. When you start to get into tackling, you never want to be head up. That gives this guy 2 ways to go. You want to be inside out. Give him 1 way to go. Now, what you'll see when we do this is it doesn't look perfect like the form tackle that Matt just executed does. You may see his helmet or his shoulder isn't quite on the outside yet. But what the defensive back will do is, with his follow-through, he'll make that automatic adjustment. Now, what we're looking for is the approach, which is going to be downhill and to his right. Once they intersect, we're going to go with the contact point, which will be the shoulder pads and the arms. And then the follow-through is going to be the defensive back running the ball carrier back 5 yards. Now, we're going to walk through it. These two are going to walk through it first just to show you in slow motion. Here we go. Set, hit, eyes up. Okay, good. Let's hustle back. Now go full speed. Now on this one here, they're going to go full speed. Now watch how the defensive back makes the adjustment. His helmet may be down the middle on contact, but it will slide outside. Again, when you talk about tackling, you have to be real. In the ball game, difficult to make a true form tackle. But if he just stays within structure, you'll be successful. Here we go. Sideline, form tackle. Again, we want to emphasize eyes up, eyes to the sky. Lead with the shoulder pads. Work downhill. That's your approach. Contact point, follow through. Set, hit. Excellent, excellent, excellent. The next phase is the open field tackle. Now, open field tackling is nothing more than a sideline tackle, but oh my goodness, the offense now has an advantage because now he has a two-way go on the defensive back. So now the approach is important for the defensive back. In the open field, what the DB has to do, he has to close vertically first to get close to him. And then he has to balance up, and then he has to realize the angle of the running back. So what we're going to show you right here is DeLon is going to come up and balance up on this cone. Set, hit. Now, as you can see, the important thing he's doing, his feet are moving. You never want to stop your feet. If you watch your video, you'll see a lot of defensive backs come up to balance, and they stop their feet. We want to keep ours moving at all times. Okay, let's go back. Now, the execution of this drill is, DeMarco, we have moved the cones back. This is a 2-yard separation. This is about a 4-yard separation. What DeMarco is going to do is, he's the ball carrier, excuse me, he is going to come up to the first cone, and he can go to his left or he can go to his right. That's up to him. What the defensive back doing the tackling is he has to come up and he has to read DeMarco, whichever way he's going, and then work inside out. So now we're working on approach. You approach vertical to horizontal, then you have your contact point. Again, eyes to the sky, lead with the shoulder pads, thrust the arms upward, use the legs, and then your follow through is your legs accelerating on contact. Let's take a look at it. Full speed, here we go. Now let's walk through it. We're going to walk through it. Here we go. Here's a walkthrough, nice and slow. Here we go. Set, hit. They're coming up, balance up, inside out, eyes to the sky. Good, come on back. Now we're going to execute the open field tackle. Here we go. Set, hit. Good job, good job, good job. Men, the final segment is how we teach tackling at Temple most of the time with our secondary or outside linebackers and even our inside linebackers when ball gets on the perimeter. Once again, the game is played in space, so what we have found out is we are going to take the opponent's legs out, just like you would do in wrestling. And the last part of this video, you'll see 6 or 7 game tackling where we're using the wrestling style of taking their legs out. Now, what we want to do here is we want to get all 3 components. So what we do is we line the defensive back up here. And what he's going to do is he's going to work horizontally. So we're working on approach. He's going to work horizontally downhill. This is the ball carrier. You got to remember, in practice, we do not tackle full speed. We thud, so you cannot thud taking their legs out. So we have to work on this dummy. But you'll see how effective it is when you see the game video. So when he gets to the dummy, what he is going to do is he is going to take a low approach. We tell him between the waist and the knees. We don't want the thighs, so what happens is most of the time it goes to the knees, sometimes even lower. What he wants to do is he wants to shoot across the ball carrier, leading with the shoulder pads. Again, we never teach head, but his head will be on the outside. The most important part is for him to wrap up the legs of the ball carrier. Now, how we emphasize follow-through is, the follow-through, he's going to take this dummy and roll with it. Now, it gives me two real big advantages. Number one, it gives me the follow-through, but number two, it simulates in a football game that a lot of times our defensive backs and outside backers go for two legs and only get one. But if they hold on to one leg, the ball carrier is eventually going down. Let's take a look at it. Low tackling. Here we go. All three are going to execute it. This is full speed. Again, you will see they'll start off running in place, meaning they've already closed vertically. They're running in place. Now they see the running back is working outside. He's going to work horizontal. Here we go. Set, hit, 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 hit. Very good. You can see how he held on. Excellent job. Here we go. Set, hit, hit, hit. Good job, Matt. Good job. You can bring that back for me, Matt. Again, they're going to run in place right here. They've already closed vertically. They're going to close horizontally. They're going to hit each cone. Matt went through the cone quick. He was excited. They'll run in place here, then make the tackle. Watch at the end how they hold on to that dummy. Here we go, DeMarco. Set, hit, 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 hit. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Men, that is going to conclude the on-field demonstration of tackling. Again, we don't try to complicate it. Think about it, in this day and age, it's not like 10, 15, 20 years ago. We don't have large numbers at college. I don't know if you have large numbers at high school. We can't tackle full speed, so we have to utilize what we have, and that's in our tackling circuit. Now, this next portion is going to be game clips of form tackling and our low tackling at Temple.
On this play right here, you're going to see the left corner in the open field make a tackle on a three-step drop. Now, I'm going to back this up and show you again. We're going to talk about approach, contact, and follow-through. Now, he reads three steps, he plants, he's in his approach right now. So he's coming vertical, and then he's going to be coming downhill horizontally. His contact area, remember, in the open field, we're going to go for the low tackle. Now, we'd like to have his head up a little bit higher, but this goes back to what we talked about earlier. It's a little different when you do form tackling than you're actually in the game. So his head should be up. He's getting ready to shoot his arms. There's his contact right there. We talked about trying to get both legs. He gets one leg. The follow-through on a low tackle is holding on. Now I'm going to give you another look from the end zone point of view. Again, it's a three-step drop. We're playing a form of three deep, so there's going to be some vertical space in between. But you can see real quick here to your right how he is already into his approach. His contact is attacking the legs, and his follow-through on a low tackle is holding on to that leg. So it's a good open field tackle. On this play right here versus Louisville in their twin set, the second inside defensive back, you're going to see him make a good open field form tackle where he has to plant. Now he loses his balance. The receiver catches the football on the outside. But what we talked about right here, when you make the form tackle in the open field, he's going to lead with his shoulder pads right there. Now you're going to see his approach. He's inside out, leads with the shoulder pads, and he's going to wrap those arms right up through the chest area, and the follow-through is going to be the acceleration. So as we go again, once again, from an end zone point of view, you'll see all three parts. Approach, right here, here's his approach. Head up, lead with the shoulder pads is the contact, and the follow-through is the acceleration of the legs. That's an excellent job right there. Now this one here is probably picture perfect on talking about the low tackle. Again, we're going to talk about the second defensive back to your right. The ball is going to be reversed. Starts to the left, goes to the right. Now the defensive back is taking his approach. So he's closing vertically, and as he closes vertically, he is going to approach horizontally. Now, just like we talked about in the dummy, he's going to keep his feet running. Keep his feet running in place. So he's in his approach right here. He could have waited another step, but he's in an approach. Now, his contact area, he's shooting for the legs. His follow-through, he holds on. Now, when you look at it from the end zone point of view, you really get to see the kid balance up on the low tackle. It's exactly as if he was tackling the dummy. Ball starts to the left, reverses to the right. Number 5's the defensive back. You can see his approach. Now, he wants to stay inside out. You can see here how he's throttling down inside out. Contact, he shoots for the legs. Follow through, he wants to hold on. That's not going to be picture perfect, but that's an excellent job. In this one right here, the reason I put this one in right here is, again, you'll see the free safety in the middle of the football field. And what he's going to do is he's going to come up. Here's his approach. Now, the running back, who's from Virginia Tech, is going to try to give him a leg outside. The defensive back redirects back inside. Would like him to be totally inside, but he's not right now. He's on his outside. But look at the contact area. He is going to wrap both legs. Excellent contact area. Hold on, and we make the tackle. Again, I'll show it to you from an end zone point of view right here. Again, it's not always going to be picture perfect. You would like this defensive back inside out, but he's not. He's outside in. But he makes a good adjustment. He balances up. Excellent job of wrapping the legs. And the follow-throughs to hold on, and he's down. This next one is in here. One reason we've been 33rd, 19th, and 18th in the country in total defense, what helps tackling is team pursuit. This again against Virginia Tech on an option play, and the only reason I have it in here, once you look at the end of the play right here, and I will freeze it for you, there's 11 opposite color jerseys around that ball carrier. Now in this play here against Virginia Tech, what I'm going to show you is where the defensive back into the boundary misses the sideline tackle, but the inside linebacker, we're in a 4-3 defense here. The right inside linebacker executes a great sideline tackle. Right here, the defensive back misses the tackle. Now, right here, you say, why did he miss it? We got to get across the ball carrier. The head has to be up, and we got to wrap the arms, and would like him to be a little bit lower. Remember, I talked about we don't want to attack the hip area. That's where all the meat of the player is. Now, the inside linebacker keeps playing off of the offensive players, and now he has a sideline to him. As he's coming in here, you'll see his head is across the body. He is going to get a great contact, and his follow-through enables him to put the man down because he has such great contact with the shoulders and the legs accelerating through the ball carrier. Once again, we'll show it to you from they're going to run to your right. This is the end zone copy. Ball bounces outside. Defensive back misses the tackle. Now the inside linebacker's working outside. Great position with his shoulders, great position with his helmet, and look at his arms wrapping up the ball carrier. On this one right here, we're going to make a good open field tackle. Again, Virginia Tech has thrown a screenplay. The defensive back, the free safety coming out of the middle of the football field. Right here, we're in man-to-man, so it makes it much easier. As you see, he takes his approach. He's downhill. He wants to be inside out. Now, watch how nice he balances up on the wide receiver here that's going to catch the football. Now, in a perfect world, we'd like him to take one more step before he would shoot the hips. But he goes ahead and shoots the hips, and right there he wraps up, makes a great open field tackle. Again, all of these are illustrating this is all just like we tackle the dummy that I showed you. That's all this young man's doing. This play here is going to be against the University of Miami, where the right corner is going to make a good open field tackle on three-step drop. As you can see, good approach. He's approaching this one here is vertical because we're in 2-9 technique. He's already inside leverage. He gets a good read. His approach, he's coming downhill Once again, he has his leverage already, and he's going to lead with the shoulder pads. Good open field tackle. And, you know, you don't get too many of these right here, but this is what you talk about with good form open field tackle. Right there, leads with the shoulder pads, head is up, and he has such force the ball carrier goes right down. Again, from a sideline point of view, just coming in here late, as you can see, he's inside out on the receiver, and his force is so strong the receiver's just going to go right down, leading with the shoulder pads. On this one right here, we're going to look at the defensive back, which is to the field, second man into the field. He's going to make an open field tackle on the tailback. Tailback has a great hole to get through. The tailback's going to go vertical, then kick outside. The defensive back realizes this. Defensive back is already outside, so what he has to do is he has to come down slow, balance up, so he makes an approach, coming down slow, balancing up. Now his contact area, remember, on the low tackle, he's going to shoot using arms, taking the legs out, and his follow-through is holding on. The only thing he doesn't do real well is hold on right here. But you're talking in the open field here with a great NFL back, so we consider this very good open field tackle. Now, when you look at the end zone point of view, you can see what this free safety sees. This tailback is out the gate right here. So he cannot work anymore inside. He balances up. As you can see what we talked about, he keeps his feet moving. Here's his approach. Now, after his approach, he's going to go for contact. Contact means he's going to wrap the arms. Would like to see him wrap better, but he gets enough of the angle.
Last but not least, through the video and the game clips, I hope you can see that what we do drill at Temple, we attempt to execute on game video. That anything we can ever do for you at Temple, please don't hesitate to call. Any inquiries we get right back to you. I wanted to thank the kids that helped us. I want to thank my daughter Joanna, who's a sophomore at Temple. She helped me with the equipment and the footballs. She couldn't have gone anywhere, but she came to Temple. Love you, girl.
Love you too.